Coming off the biggest event in AEW history on Sunday, 81,000 people at Wembley Stadium. They had to go right back into hype mode because they have another pay-per-view coming up in less than a week. All Out, coming up at the United Center in Chicago this Sunday. And there is a big name with pretty close ties, I would say, to the Chicago area that was noticeably absent from any announcements made tonight about that All Out pay-per-view coming up. And that would be one CM Punk, who reportedly has been suspended by AEW, informed by his attorney, not directly by anybody in AEW. The report is that CM Punk and Jack Perry have both been suspended pending the results of an investigation into the confrontation, you might say, that they had backstage at Wembley on Sunday. Basically what turned into Brawl In on Sunday. How appropriate that nearly 1 year to the day of Brawl Out, CM Punk decided that he didn't want it to be an only child. So he decided to give it a little sister. So now Brawl Out has Brawl In. That way Brawl Out doesn't have to feel so alone. There was a funny sign during the show tonight that popped up. A little sign in the crowd here. Look in my eyes. What do you see? Where is Jack Perry? Hat tip to that guy. Very clever. I am going to talk about the CM Punk Jack Perry situation a little bit later on. Everybody has their opinion on it. I have mine. And I will share that with you a little bit later. But first, there was a show tonight. And Tony Khan, I want to read you this tweet. Tony Khan put a tweet out about an hour before the show began that due to minor illnesses to big talent traveling this week and Hurricane Idalia affecting flights, I have changed some plans for Dynamite tonight. I don't know if he was trying to rhyme or what. He wrote tonight in all caps and an exclamation point and everything, but he almost rhymed. I don't know if he was trying to do that on purpose or not. Let me take a moment here to send best wishes to anybody who was affected or may still be affected in some way by the hurricane. It looked like some people I heard from anyway were spared the worst of it because they were talking about it making landfall and hitting certain areas pretty hard. So there's still a lot of flooding and a lot of wind damage. Last I heard, it was moving up through Georgia and going towards South Carolina, maybe North Carolina. So we have fans, of course, all over the country, all over the world, who watch these streams and listen to the podcast every Sunday. So I want to just extend my well wishes to everybody who might be in the path. And hopefully you guys are doing okay. And look, property can be replaced, but you cannot. So as long as you're safe, that's the most important thing. So between injuries, between travel issues, and Tony Khan also mentioned the other day that he was going to give off tonight or next week to anybody who wanted to attend the services of Bray Wyatt, who passed away last Thursday. Now, I don't know if Bray's services were held today or not, or if they are being pushed back until next week. I didn't see anything mentioned about him having services today, but doesn't mean that you and I would have been in the know about that. It's possible maybe there was something held. That could have been why certain talents were not on the show tonight. Again, I'm not sure if that happened or not. But I do think that in looking at this show or grading this show, we have to look at it from that perspective, that they were handicapped. And it was very apparent watching this show tonight that they were handicapped. A lot of big names, a lot of names missing from tonight's show. We got some segments that were taped backstage at Wembley, so we saw MJF, but he wasn't at the show tonight. None of the Elite were there, or at least they didn't appear on camera. If they were there, I'm sure they would have been on TV, among other names. So they were shorthanded tonight. But there were some good reasons why they were shorthanded. Tonight was all about All Out. They have a pay-per-view on Sunday, which has typically been one of their biggest events of the year. And Tony Khan has stated that he wants to make All In and All Out an annual thing back-to-back weekends, because they have the bank holiday over, I guess, in London, and they have the Labor Day holiday here in this country. And so he wants to keep those dates, and he wants to have All In and All Out every year like this. And they're going to do it again next year in 2024. And watching the show tonight, even with the circumstances being what they were, I think that that's probably a very poor idea. I know that they have 10,000 tickets already sold for All Out this weekend, but the idea of doing these shows back-to-back like this, we saw tonight, as far as putting this card together, the drawback of doing that. You don't have enough time in a lot of cases to build up other big matches, maybe as big as what you had at the Wembley show. And so now we're looking at this All Out card, which is not a bad card, meaning that it's not as if there aren't going to be some potentially great matches on the show. I see a few potential ones when I look at this card, but the card feels flat. This does not feel like an All Out card. And again, that's the problem when you have an event that turnaround is so quick on this. And in this case, they were already, dealt a few blows as far as people who will likely not be on the show. Hopefully that will not become an annual thing. So yeah, this All Out card, and I'm going to run down what the updated card is a little bit later on. This All Out card, honestly, in some ways is feeling more like a Ring of Honor show. We have 2 Ring of Honor championship matches on that show. The Ring of Honor television title is being defended, and the Ring of Honor tag team titles are being defended. And there's still time. Tony Khan could still add more matches. He could add a Ring of Honor world title match or a Ring of Honor women's title match as well. But that's kind of what it's feeling a little bit like. No AEW World Championship match. MJF is wrestling on the show. He is defending the ROH tag team titles with Adam Cole. He is not defending the AEW World Championship. Now, the question is that because Tony Khan was planning a main event of CM Punk against MJF? I don't believe that to be the case. And I said going in that if he was planning on doing Punk and MJF at All Out, even though it's in Chicago, big main event, I think that would have been a mistake. Because that's a big match that you really should take more time to properly promote. And you get those guys on TV cutting promos. I mean, that's really what people would want to see. And it just didn't feel like there was enough time to really invest in a main event like that, having less than a week. What I said going into All In, I said this on the podcast on Sunday, that I thought the match for this Sunday was going to be CM Punk defending his real world title against Ricky Starks in a strap match, based on the angle they did on Collision a few weeks ago, where Ricky Starks whipped the shit out of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat with his belt. And the Ricky Starks suspension has been shortened. Originally, it was 30 days, and then they realized, well, he's going to miss both pay-per-views, so let's just have him miss one pay-per-view. So Ricky is going to be eligible to wrestle on Sunday, but now it looks like he has no opponent because I'm betting that was the match. And right now, CM Punk is far from a guarantee as far as being on that card. But there's another aspect to this also to consider as far as why are they not giving us an MJF title defense on Sunday, and instead they're saving it for Grand Slam at Arthur Ashe Stadium, September 20th. That was the other announcement that was made tonight. MJF is going to be defending his championship against the winner of an Eliminator tournament. Tony Khan loves his tournaments. We're getting another one. I feel like we just wrapped up a tournament not that long ago. And we had the Owen Hart tournaments. So they're doing a title match in New York City in a few weeks on television. Why would they be doing this? Well, besides the obvious point about this being a very quick turnaround, and they obviously, maybe they just didn't have an opponent in mind for him this quickly, the reality is this: they have 10,000 tickets sold for the United Center. And I see people online saying, oh, it's a sellout. Again, it's a sellout for the tickets that they have a lot, and they're not sold out. They're actually not sold out on Sunday. But I do laugh when I hear, oh, it's sold out. It's not sold out. Do you know how many people fit in the United Center? The United Center fits 23,000 people. For wrestling, even if you subtract for the stage and the setup and everything, when Punk came back, they had 15,000 people in the building. That's about as close to a sellout as you're going to get with the current setup. So no, they're not sold out, but they have 10,000 tickets sold for Sunday. Arthur Ashe is only a few weeks away. They had 20,000 people in Arthur Ashe Stadium 2 years ago for that, or I guess it was 3 years ago now, for that very first Grand Slam show. Last year they had about, I want to say it was about 13,000, somewhere in that range. So you knew it wasn't going to be as many, but that's still a pretty good number. As of 10 days ago, they have 5,000 tickets sold for Arthur Ashe. It is the law of diminishing returns, which is going to be interesting next year with Wembley to see how much lower that number could potentially be. So they got 5,000 tickets sold. They got a problem. They need to move more tickets. So that may have been part of the calculus as well. We already have this show basically almost sold out for the allotment that we put out there. But we got to move tickets for New York City. What can we do? We'll give them a world championship match. So that probably has a lot to do with why we're getting that. So again, we're gonna talk more about the All Out card later, and I will give some thoughts on Punk. I don't know that I'm gonna go into all of my thoughts on Punk because there's so much to unpack, and I feel like that should be a separate video, or I'll save it for Sunday. But I will talk about that later, and I will give you my thoughts on what I think should be done there. But this is your AEW Dynamite review. It is Wednesday, August 30th. 2023. I am the Solomonster. It's our final stream for the month of August. We had a huge stream, one of our biggest of the year on Sunday, so I got to thank you all again for that. You guys blew me away with the support. We had Raw Monday night. This is it. The next time I see you live, barring breaking news tomorrow, like there was last week, hopefully not, will be Friday night for SmackDown. That'll be the beginning of September. 75,000 subscribers. We're not that far away. So if you are not already subscribed, go ahead and do so. Hit the like button as well. 400 likes, which we should clear that easily because there were already a ton of them before I went live. That's the goal for Be the Booker later. So hit that thumbs up. Super chats are open. Lady Fire Panda, I know you're in there somewhere. Hey, Javi. Thank you, Javi. Fire Panda, I know you're in here somewhere. Fire Panda dropped $70 before I went live. So thank you, Fire Panda. And Peter Quartieri, before I went live, dropping $99.99. You shorted me by 1 cent. No, I'm kidding. Peter, you're on fire. Thank you, brother. Peter and Lady Fire Panda, thank you both. So Dynamite tonight opened with highlights from the Wembley show on Sunday. They did include highlights from the CM Punk Samoa Joe match, and there were a couple clips of Jack Perry in there and Hook as well. So if anybody was wondering, did they wipe them from the highlights? They did not. And the opening contest on the show tonight was Jon Moxley going one-on-one with Comander. I mean, if that doesn't scream we're shorthanded, I don't know what does. Moxley mowed him down with a big boot, corner strikes. Comander had more offense here than you would have expected. I wouldn't have given him as much offense as he had here, personally. But he fought back. He countered a powerbomb into a facebuster, tried to follow with some lariats. Moxley, though, he initially just took them. Third one knocked him down. So Comander was able to chop Moxley down with some kicks and a low DDT, which led to a lung blower for 2. He wanted his rope walk 450, which is very impressive when we see him pull that move off. Moxley, though, got the knees up.
Look, everyone, it's Samoa BRO.
It's Samoa BRO. Hey, Zachariah, thank you. He got the knees up, connected with the pile driver. Anvil elbows followed. That led to a rear naked choke. And Moxley transitioned into an armbar for the tap-out win. So this was simply a win to kind of warm up Moxley heading into Sunday. He's going to be challenging the International Champion, which was our main event on this show. It was Orange Cassidy and Penta. That came later on. Whoever walked out with the title would be defending against Moxley on Sunday. Considering how long Orange Cassidy has been the champion for, you knew he wasn't losing on the go-home show to All Out. He's been champion since, I believe, December. He was not losing his title tonight. But that's for Sunday. It'll be Moxley challenging for the championship. So this was fine. I mean, this was a warm-up match as an opener. So now we go to footage in the back from Sunday at Wembley. Not the footage that we all wish we could see. That's different footage. That's for their all-access reality show season 2. But we got footage of the Young Bucks in the dressing room being interviewed after their loss to FTR. And as they're talking, FTR walks in, and they want to know, hey, what's up, guys? You didn't shake our hands. When the match was over, we put our hands out to shake them, and nothing in return. What's going on here? So the Bucks explained that they were just frustrated. They just performed in front of 81,000 people on the show that they helped create. They lost. They're just frustrated. They're upset. Nothing personal. Matt Jackson, he admitted that Dax and Cash, you guys were the better men. And it looked like everything was copacetic between the two teams when Bullet Club Gold showed up. Jay White, Cardboard Jay White, Juice Robinson, Austin Gunn, Colton Gunn. And look at Richie Rich over here dropping all this money on me. Oh my God. Hey, I just want you to know, I think you rock. Oh, it's our buddy ABK. The Rock, A-Rock, you rock. And I just wanted you to know that. It's our buddy ABK. Remember ABK from the other night? How could we forget? ABK dropping a 101. Oh my God. Way to ruin the party there. Hey, ABK, thank you for that 101. Man, he says, hello, guys. Guess who's back? Guess who's back, everybody? It's ABK. Always be killing it. I love it. And Jacob, thank you for the Brie. Should I thank you for the Brie? I'll thank you for the Brie mode. Again, we're going to be going over your super chats a little bit later, so I'm sure there's a lot of comments and questions coming out of this weekend. So you can get those on in. But Bullet Club Gold says that this locker room here is for winners. Looking at the Bucks, who of course were losers on Sunday. And Jay White said that there were 4 of them, and there are 4 of us. Cash Wheeler suggested an 8-man tag, for All Out with FTR tagging with the Young Bucks to take on all 4 members of Bullet Club Gold. And later on, we were told that Tony Khan has made the match official. And so it will be 4-on-4 on Sunday. So can they coexist? Can the Bucks and FTR coexist? They should be able to after this segment. It looked like everything was cool. Of course, things will not be cool between the 4 of them. So we're getting a multi-man match on Sunday. This is what happens when you have less than a week to promote your pay-per-view. You end up with a multi-man match. That's what we're getting on Sunday. So the Bucks, they refused the handshake at Wembley on Sunday. Even though here they were like, oh, everything's cool, we were just frustrated. That was the first seed planted on Sunday. The next one is going to come on Sunday when they lose, which is what I'm expecting. They're going to lose to Bullet Club Gold. Maybe it's a miscommunication. Maybe they just lose straight up, and whoever takes the losing fall, the other team, they get frustrated. Maybe they go for a handshake, and now it would be interesting if the shoe was on the other foot, and this time the Bucks put their hands out, and FTR said, no, you know what? Fuck that, and they walked away. Kind of like tit for tat. So I think that's what we're going to get, because this issue with the Bucks and FTR won the rubber match of the 3 matches that they had, but we haven't seen the last of FTR and the Young Bucks. We're clearly going to be getting more between them. And so that's, I assume that's going to further that story on Sunday, and it should be another win for Bullet Club Gold. That's what I would do. Now we got a video recap of Saraya's AEW Women's World Title win on Sunday. She won the championship in her homeland. Got the big hometown, home country win. Renee interviewed Toni Storm backstage. I am loving this Toni Storm gimmick, I will say. Toni Storm is doing some great stuff right now. I am enjoying this Hollywood starlet gimmick where she seems to have lost her mind after losing her championship. She complained about, was it Saraya? I think she says Saraya going off script and that she can't, in the match on Sunday. And she can't trust anybody, and she said Wembley went tits up. I must have missed that part. She started to walk away. She was all distressed. She says she can't even trust her bloody shoes. And then from off camera, she threw one of her shoes at Renee, who ducked out of the way. Chris Jericho is out to the ring next to address Chicago after his loss to Will Ospreay at All In on Sunday. Jericho said that they should be celebrating after a very successful weekend. Of course, he had to mention his little Fozzy performance, because Fozzy performed on Friday. They didn't just perform at All In on Sunday. They actually had a performance somewhere in the UK on Friday as well. So he said they should be celebrating that. They should be celebrating the fact that they performed in front of 81,000 fans. And that number, he said, is a shoot. And should be celebrating having a match against Will Ospreay, who he said was one of his favorites. It was a show that he'll never forget. But one thing that he would like to forget was how he treated his brother Sammy Guevara when the match was over. And he invited Sammy to come on down to the ring to speak to him face to face. So Sammy came out, and Jericho told him that he never should have taken things out on him when his match was over. He was just frustrated. He knows Sammy has been his brother and has always had his back. And he showed the footage from Sunday, the clip from the match where Jericho had Ospreay in the walls of Jericho. The referee's attention was diverted, and Sammy had the baseball bat. He hit Ospreay in the head with it behind the referee's back. So they showed that clip, and he wanted to apologize to Sammy. And the two of them shook hands. Sammy reminded him, he goes, look, I told you I would always have your back. So Jericho's standing there. Everything looks to be cool between the two of them. And Jericho says, man, I'm trying to think about what I could have done differently in that match on Sunday. And he's, maybe I could have, hooked the tights differently or whatever. But one of the things he mentions is maybe Sammy could have hit Ospreay a little bit harder in the head with the baseball bat. And that gets Sammy's attention. He goes, whoa. Can you just back it up and repeat what you just said there? Hey, look who it is. It's Jericho. He knew I was talking about him, so he has to pop up on screen there. Hey, Kyle, welcome to the channel. So Sammy hears this and he goes, hold on a second. Do you mind repeating what you just said there? And Sammy said, well, maybe Jericho could have hit Ospreay a little bit harder with the Judas effect. So they started arguing back and forth, and Sammy he kind of griped about having to be in London and away from his pregnant wife, who was back in Florida, back in Orlando. Jericho said he expected him to be grateful because he had a spot on the biggest show that they've ever had. It's a spot that other people would kill for. And he was there because he was in Jericho's corner. Guevara replied that if he wasn't so focused on having Jericho's back, maybe he would have wrestled on that show. And Jericho said, well, maybe if you followed more of my advice, you could wrestle on the show next year. So Sammy said he liked the sound of that, but he would not follow all of his advice so that he would actually win on the show next year. So Jericho brought up Sammy's loss to MJF. Sammy then brought up the fact that Jericho won the AEW World Title. It was actually in that very building. It was the Now Arena in Chicago, well, technically Hoffman Estates. And Jericho then proceeded to lose the physical belt outside of a steakhouse, which is a true story, and a story that we talked about at the time quite a bit. A very embarrassing story where Jericho literally lost the AEW World Title. So at the end of all this, Jericho said, look, let's just stop taking shots at each other here. And let's do what we do best. Let's reform Les Sex Gods, and let's go after the AEW Tag Team titles. And Sammy thought about it. He shook his hand. And the two of them left without incident, which was underwhelming because there were people in the crowd who were expecting something to happen here. Probably, Sammy attacks Jericho, or Jericho attacks Sammy for talking back to him or something. But there was nothing. They just patched things up real quick. They decided we're going to go after the tag team titles, and they walked off together. I thought we were going to get a singles match. I was waiting. I thought they were about to do some angle, whether they, Sammy attacked him, or it was just a case where I want a match with you. I didn't get a match on Sunday. So the least you can do for me is give me a match this Sunday, and then they were going to have a match. So there was no announcement of a singles match between the two. I don't have a problem with that. And I don't have a problem with that because there's a lot of history between these two. They have not done the Jericho-Sammy match yet. And if you're going to do that match, it should be done with more than a few days of build. That's something you can build to for Full Gear. Or Grand Slam or Wrestle Dream, because they just added this new show on October 1st. I mean, Full Gear isn't even the next pay-per-view. But you got to give it more time than just 5 days. So I don't have an issue with them pushing the match off, given all the history they have. And actually, I'm liking all this competition for the tag team titles. You know, FTR and the Young Bucks, we know that's not over. We got Bullet Club Gold in there, right? So we know they're in contention for the tag team titles. We had FTR defend recently against a whole bunch of different teams, including MJF and Adam Cole, and the other great matches they had with Jay White and Juice Robinson. And now we add another tag team to the mix here, even if it's only temporary, in Jericho and Sammy Guevara, even if it's only to further their own story. It adds more competition to the tag division. It makes the tag team titles feel that much more sought after. So I like that aspect of it. But you gotta give Jericho and Sammy more than 5 days worth of build if you're gonna finally pull the trigger on a singles match. I mean, that would be ridiculous. Backstage, we got a promo from Jon Moxley, who was with the other members of the Blackpool Combat Club. He talked about the international title match in the main event tonight and getting the winner at All Out. He said the wrestler who leaves Chicago this weekend at All Out with the international championship will be the wrestler with the biggest bite. So there it is. I guess Ace Steel is leaving Chicago as the new AEW International Champion this weekend. Look at Richie Rich over here dropping all this money on. You gotta be fucking kidding me.
I just want you to know, I think you rock. I don't mean The Rock, A-Rock, you rock.
Am I seeing double here?
I just wanted you to know that.
Look at that, same shirt. Hey, ABK, with another $101 super chat. Here's to another, because you are the best. I have listened to you since 2013. Well, happy 10-year anniversary. 10 years, man. That's a long time. I love it. Always be killing it. That's your name from now on. ABK, thank you, man. Appreciate that. Eddie Kingston defended his New Japan Pro Wrestling Openweight Strong Championship, Strong Openweight Championship, against Wheeler Yuta. Kingston came out, he had a bandage on his elbow from Stadium Stampede. Yuta slapped Kingston. He went right after the taped up elbow early on, kept Eddie grounded. They went to commercial about a minute into the match. So it was all Yuta during the break. When they came back, Kingston blocked the monkey flip. He sent Yuta to the floor before connecting with a tope. Back inside, we got the Kobashi machine gun chops from Eddie, which led to an exploder. Yuta, though, blocked the spinning back fist. Kingston got his knees up on a dive from Yuta. He followed with a Saito suplex for a near fall. Wheeler countered a half and half into an angle slam, and Kingston started to fire up. Fired off some chops with the bad arm. Yuta responded with some elbows. Kingston connected with multiple back fists. And with that, Yuta collapsed. Kingston covered him, and he got the pin. After the match, Claudio, the Ring of Honor World Champion, Claudio Castagnoli, he appeared, never made eye contact with Eddie Kingston in the ring. He showed up. He stared directly off into the crowd as he circled the ring outside. Eddie was in the ring. He saw him. He was challenging him to come in. Claudio would not even acknowledge this man's existence, and he walked around to the other side where Yuta was. He picked up Yuta, and they left together. Never once did he bother to look at Eddie Kingston. The plan that I had talked about going into All In, I figure you have Eddie Kingston win Stadium Stampede. If the baby faces are going over, let him pick up the win. And let him pin Wheeler Yuta. And then you could set up Kingston and Moxley for All Out and have Eddie win. And then there's only one guy left. And that's the man he hates, Claudio. And you do that match at Grand Slam in New York City for the Ring of Honor World Title. Instead, we got him beating Yuta tonight. And we're obviously not getting him against Moxley this Sunday. But I still like that idea. I still like the idea that he's got to go through. He went through Yuta. Let him get Moxley. and let him get Claudio last. Now, Tony Khan might want to save that for the next Ring of Honor pay-per-view. I don't think Ring of Honor is having another well, I guess they're technically having one this Sunday, Jesus. But an official Ring of Honor pay-per-view, probably not until December, right? That would be Final Battle. That's a long time to wait, but it gives them time to do Eddie and Moxley at some point between now and then. Eddie wins, and then he's going to get Claudio. Probably a Final Battle would be my guess. I just think it would have been nice to do that match in New York at Grand Slam. And they still could. I mean, shit. Tony Khan could still add that match to All Out. We have television on Friday. We have television on Saturday. He could still add more matches to All Out. He probably will add at least one more match, maybe two, to the All Out card. So it could still happen, but now I'm thinking he might be waiting until the end of the year for that. We got a video package that recapped the main event between MJF and Adam Cole at All In this past Sunday, with MJF retaining his World Championship. So then we cut to a shot from backstage at Wembley. MJF, I think he had an ice pack on his neck because he took that nasty bump on the steps, and I would not be surprised if he really is dealing with a neck issue, because he was holding his neck off and on for the rest of the night, right up until the post-match angle on Sunday. And then I went back and watched a replay. I watched the match over again because I thought the match was great. And there were a few things I wanted to go back and rewatch because I was so busy also taking notes and stuff. So I watched the match back, and that spot was just fucking stupid. Let me just say that. You know, and I'm sure Adam Cole is safe, and I don't hear about him injuring people and stuff, but my God, I don't even know why you would attempt to do a move like that. If you're going to drop somebody on the ring steps, you want to drop them on the flat part of the ring steps. Makes a nice sound. It's still a great visual. Like, I get that. We've seen that before. But he delivered a brain buster, neck first, on the edge of the ring steps. That is incredibly stupid. And MJF is one of the most valuable players that Tony Khan has right now, if not the most valuable player after this week. So I just think it was an incredibly dumb spot. Hopefully he's okay. So anyway, he's selling the neck. Adam Cole comes in, and he sits down next to him, and MJF tells him, "I'm taking the week off." He said, "You've got me wrestling more than I have in my entire career over the past few months," which is true. Think about that. Think about how seldom it was that we saw MJF wrestling at all until this Adam Cole angle. In the last 2 months, he's probably wrestled more in a 2-month time span than he has in the last 3.5 years. He said he was going to go to Paris. He was going to eat a baguette, excuse me. He was going to bang some rats, and then he would meet him in Chicago for some deep dish, and then they would do a double clothesline at All Out. MJF said that there would be a battle royal on Rampage this Friday to determine who they would be defending their Ring of Honor tag team titles against at All Out, and there would be an eliminator tournament starting on television next week to determine who would be challenging him for the AEW World Championship at Grand Slam September 20th at Arthur Ashe Stadium. And Adam Cole said that if anybody deserved a week off, it was MJF. So it's Tony Khan's 2 favorite things in the entire world. Well, 3 other than chaos. His other 2 favorite things in the world, a battle royal and a tournament. And he gets them all within a few days of each other. So it's a tag team tournament. And the first thought I had was, well, okay, the Kingdom, right? Mike Bennett, Matt Taven, they'll be in there. They're probably a shoe-in to win. And then we get that match at All Out. They were not listed in the graphic. So they are not in the battle royal as of this moment. The Kingdom is not even in the Battle Royal. They have the Butcher. I think the Butcher and the Blade are in there. The Dark Order is in there. The Hardys are in there. Bunch of other teams. But no Kingdom. So that was surprising. And again, no AEW World Title match. And very likely no real World Title match on Sunday at what has been traditionally their biggest pay-per-view of the year. Renee was backstage with Sammy Guevara, who said, he was talking about the segment from before with Jericho. Almost immediately, he's interrupted by Don Callis, whose scar on his head appears to be growing in size every time I see it. I think that thing has a life of its own. I expect some little fucking alien to pop out of it one of these days. So Don Callis shows up. He asks, it must be frustrating dealing with a sociopath like Chris Jericho. And Callis tried to congratulate Sammy. He goes, oh, you're pregnant. Your wife is pregnant. And Sammy saw right through him, and he said, cut him off, told him to get lost. So obviously Callis is going to try to be the wedge between Jericho and Sammy, which again is why you need to take your time in telling this story. It's not a story that you can tell in 5 days. Adam Cole was out to the ring next by himself. Again, MJF was not on this show outside of that one pre-tape segment. He came to the ring to address the crowd. He put over All In as the greatest wrestling event of all time. And you could practically hear the groans from the crowd, or you could hear them from here. Again, everyone is prone to hyperbole. WWE does it. AEW, I mean, they make an Olympic sport out of it. AEW is no different. I think that most people who watch the show seem to enjoy the show. I thought it was a very good show. It was not the best AEW pay-per-view that they've ever done. It was the biggest. But to come out and make a statement like that, and they had Jericho said something similar on the show. It's like they got their marching orders. You know, we got to call it the greatest of all time. If you're going to call something the greatest of all time, it should be the greatest of all time. All In was good, but it was not the greatest of all time. He said the only bad thing about it was him not winning the AEW World Championship, but it will happen one of these days. He mentioned that MJF's neck was in pretty rough shape, but he promised the crowd that this Sunday at All Out, MJF would be ready to go for their Ring of Honor World Tag Team title match. Roderick Strong, in his neck brace, comes out. He is flanked by Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. They get in the ring, and Roddy says, you care more about the fact that Max's neck is bad than you care about the fact that my neck is bad. He says, is my neck health not important to you? Cole said this whole thing is just getting beyond absurd. So Mike Bennett cuts a promo. His very first promo, his first real promo here on Dynamite. And he details his history with Adam Cole. And I'm glad they did this because I think it was important to do it for the people who aren't familiar with their history. Tony Khan has a tendency when he brings people in to just sort of assume that everybody knows who everybody is and everybody knows what their history is with this guy or that guy. And in the end, they don't. They don't all know the history. So you need to take the time to educate people and explain to them what is the relationship between all of these people. We know there's a relationship in history between Adam Cole and Roddy from Ring of Honor and from NXT. We know that already, but what about the Kingdom and Adam Cole? So Mike Bennett says that he knows Cole from the match that both got them signed in the first place. It was Ring of Honor, ECW Arena. The year was 2010. A 21-year-old Adam Cole against a 25-year-old Matt Bennett, or Mike Bennett. Mike, what's the fucking difference, right? Mike Hardy, Matt Bennett. So he says he remembers. He goes, they got each other jobs that night. They were both signed, and from that point on, they were bonded. And they did everything together. Cole was at his wedding. Cole's problem is that he cares too much about what the fans think, and he forgot what these guys meant to him. And Cole says that's not true. Matt Taven pipes up. He says Cole needed the Kingdom. And then he joined Bullet Club to get that merch money. And then he went to Florida and he used all of their friends to elevate himself. He goes, Cole is a leech. And he says that he's always been one. Now he latched onto MJF because he thinks he's the gateway to the AEW World Title.
Samoa BRO.
He has a question for him, though. He says, when he looks at pictures of the past, does Cole ignore the people around him? And Cole tells them that they know for a fact that's not true. You guys know this isn't true. He goes, if I made you feel that way, I'm very sorry. He knows that they were all very close. He's learned how important it is to be understanding, and the three of them have to accept the fact that MJF is his best friend. So Roddy says he can't accept it. So he's going to enter the Grand Slam Eliminator Tournament. He's going to win the entire thing, And he's going to go on to challenge MJF and become the new AEW World Heavyweight Champion. He's going to do what Adam Cole could not do at Wembley Stadium. So if Cole was his real friend, he would be rooting for him too. And Cole told him that was a mistake because his neck wasn't close to 100%. And Roddy said that he doesn't need to be 100% to beat people decisively. He doesn't need roll-ups. He doesn't need dynamite diamond rings to get the job done, unlike his friend at MJF, because he is a wrestling legend. And Cole was talking to them off mic and telling him it's a mistake. And he didn't do anything wrong. And so Roddy and the Kingdom, they walked off. And they left Cole all by himself in the ring, just, again, repeating the same thing. I did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. Now, he stood there for a while. And the way they were shooting this, they kind of had a tight shot of him at first to make it seem like somebody was about to attack him from behind. But nobody came out. He just stood there for 15 seconds, and then they just moved on to the next segment. So that was kind of an awkward finish. But again, I'm glad they at least explained the history with everybody involved. This sets up the next chapter of whatever is going to come next in this story. You know, they could have, at Wembley, they could have gone ahead and had one guy turn on the other, or they could have done a title change. There's any number of things they could have done. And it would have ended the story there and started a whole new chapter. And instead, Cole and MJF are still friends for now. And I totally understand why Tony Khan would want them to still be friends and would want to drag this out for a while because it's working. So keep it going for a little while longer. And we'll see. Roddy winning the Eliminator without knowing anybody else who's in the tournament. They did not give us a bracket. We don't know who else is going to be in this tournament. So just with that little caveat there, Roddy winning would make sense for the story they're telling. Because then you have Adam Cole, who's conflicted over who do I root for in this match. And then both friends end up getting pissed at him because he's so indecisive and he can't pick a side. Right? So it creates more tension between all the parties involved. I don't know who else is going to be in this tournament, but Roderick Strong winning, not beating MJF, but winning the tournament would seem to make the most sense. So I thought this was a good segment. But MJF was sorely missed. He was a very noticeable absence from this segment. We had Chris Statlander, Britt Baker, and Hikaru Shida as partners in a trios match against Nyla Rose, Marina Shafir, and Emi Sakura. This right here screamed, we're shorthanded. So we have to just put these two teams together and put them out there here on this show. Sakura attacks Shida right off the bat, and Shida quickly turned the tables, tagged in Britt, who hit a sling blade. Shafir took the referee to allow Nyla to cheap shot Britt, keep her isolated throughout the whole commercial break. Baker managed a rolling neck breaker that led to a hot tag from Statlander. She ran wild until she got taken out by a slam. Shida tried to jump in. Rose, though, ducked a Baker super kick, and Shida ate the super kick by accident instead. Nyla dropped Britt with a choke slam, tried to do the same to Statlander, who fought it off and sent her to the floor along with everybody else. Statlander went up to the top. She hit a big crossbody onto the pile. Got back in the ring with Shafir and hit her Wednesday Night Fever finish and picked up the win for her team. After the match was over, Britt was trying to plead her case to Shida. She didn't mean to kick her in the face. It wasn't done intentionally. It was an accident. Meanwhile, as that was going on in the ring, Chris Statlander has her back turned, and she gets ambushed by Ruby Soho. And so she hits her no future kick. She holds up the TBS title, and Shida and Baker, they finally make the save. The match was okay. Again, they're teasing problems between Baker and Shida, probably because we're going to get a match between the two. And the winner of that match, my guess, is next in line to challenge Saraya for the Women's World Championship. So my money is on Britt Baker. And Britt Baker is probably going to be the one to take the title from Saraya. I think that's where the title ends up going. It ends up going back to Britt Baker. It's just a matter of when. So I think that's where they're going with that. And meanwhile, the angle they shot when the match was over was to set up the title match that was already announced between Ruby and Statlander for Sunday, which I think should be, potentially a very good match. You never really know until two people get in the ring one-on-one and they work together how well they're going to work together. But Ruby, I have seen Ruby in some very good matches before. Even in WWE, she was on a roll for a while before she had the double shoulder surgery. And I don't know that she was ever really the same after that. She certainly wasn't pushed at the same level. And then she wasn't pushed at all because she was gone from the company. Statlander can go. We know that. So we'll see. We'll find out on Sunday. But I think that has the potential to be a very good match. We got a video package on Shane Taylor, though I know some of you are like, who? Because you don't watch Ring of Honor, but he's a Ring of Honor talent. And it was to inform us that on Sunday at All Out, Samoa Joe will be defending his Ring of Honor television title against Shane Taylor. There you go. Shane Taylor has never appeared on Dynamite before. Certainly in no meaningful role of any kind. Samoa Joe has. Shane Taylor has not. Why are we getting this match on Sunday? I have no idea. Hey, look, I mean, at least we're getting Joe on the pay-per-view. I got no problem with that. But why is this match on the All Out card? In the back, Don Callis was with Konosuke Takeshita, and up on the screen they were strategizing how to take advantage of Kenny Omega's various injuries and surgeries that he's had in the past. He had x-rays up showing the different parts of the body that Kenny has had injury issues with. He said if all else fails, his backup plan is to use the screwdriver that he used on Omega many months ago, if you remember when he hit him in the head with the screwdriver. That's the sleeper match on Sunday. When I look at the All Out card, I'll go over the card later, but when I look at the All Out card, Kenny Omega and Konosuke Takeshita is the match I'm looking forward to the most. That is the biggest match to me, without there being a world title match. That's the biggest match on that pay-per-view. We got Kenny Omega in a trios match at Wembley Stadium. Now we get Kenny Omega in a singles match, and they have held off on the Takeshita thing ever since Takeshita turned on him, which was 3 months ago now, probably 3 or 4 months ago. That's the match I'm looking forward to the most. Maybe they could do screwdriver on a pole, bro. Put the screwdriver up there on a pole. First person to grab it gets to use it. I know who would book that match. We have the new Trios champions, the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn, make their way out to the ring to a very quiet reaction from this crowd in Chicago. This was not a very animated crowd in Chicago. And I don't know if they were expecting Punk on the show. I don't know why they would be expecting Punk on the show. Punk is not a Dynamite guy. So he wouldn't have been there regardless, I think, of what happened. But they were very quiet in a lot of spots throughout this show. Certain matches that they got into, they got louder. But this was not, what you would sometimes expect out of Chicago, which is a very loud, engaged, animated crowd. They were not loud at all when these guys came out. They were kind of shockingly quiet. But they won the crowd over as the segment went on because people like the Acclaimed. So they get into the ring, and Billy asks them to finally just turn down their music, which was playing for a while. Turn down the music because he knows they're short on time. He announced that Daddy Ass was back. Max Caster said they thought it was fitting to come back to Chicago, the crowd that lifted up the Acclaimed. Well, I guess that would have been All Out last year. See, I forgot a lot of what happened at All Out last year because it was overshadowed by something that happened when the show was over. The MJF return at the end of the show, the Acclaimed, right? I guess that would have been the first match against Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. Not where they did the title change, although they could have called an audible, but they didn't. And it's crazy how I think back on that now, and it's like, I forgot about that. Meanwhile, that was one of the best matches I saw all year. Completely overshadowed. So anyway, they have history here in Chicago. They promised that they would lift up the trios titles and it would dominate the division. And Caster said they were going to have a ribbon-cutting ceremony tonight. He pulled out a small pair of scissors. It was very tiny, and that led to Billy Gunn bringing up that he had a much larger one, so, making dick jokes. They cut the ribbon. Bowens declared this a new era. He welcomed us to the House of Ass. And on commentary, Excalibur said, well, as a matter of fact, that's where MJF is right now. He's over in Amsterdam. He's at a place by that same name. And Taz said he knew a place like that in New Jersey. I'll bet he does. So they thought the current trios title belts looked a little bit drab. So they had another set of titles that was covered. And they pulled off the bag or the tarp to reveal new trios titles, which basically are the current trios titles, same design, but on a hot pink strap. And not for nothing, they actually look really good. It goes with their gear. Very color coordinated. But the cool part was actually when they turned the belt around. And I actually like this. They turned the belt around. And what they've done here, they have these custom straps where when you take the two ends of the strap, they're in the shape of scissor ends. And so when you take the two ends of the strap, they're scissoring each other. I thought that was very clever. I'll tell you something right now. If they take those belts and they put them up on shopaew.com and sell replicas of these belts, they'll make a killing. The main event of the show was Orange Cassidy defending the International Championship against Penta El Cero Miedo. We got a lightning-fast opening sequence. A long time, too, they gave these guys, because this match went out there. It was probably, I don't even think it was 20-10 yet, so they probably gave them 20 minutes. Lightning-fast opening sequence, arm drags, leg sweeps. That led to a stalemate. Cassidy got a quick takedown, did his pocket offense to Penta on the floor, or sent Penta to the floor. Cassidy went for a tope. And as he flew out of the ring, he sailed through the ropes out of the ring, Penta almost dropped him, but he got him in a gorilla press position, which was impressive. Pressed him up over his head, walked him towards the barricade, and before he actually got to the barricade, I don't know how many feet, there was some distance between him and the barricade, he launched him. I mean, he fucking launched this guy right into the side of the barricade. And that took us into the first commercial break. We got actually 2 breaks. We came back. There was some more back and forth. We got a second commercial break. Both men traded thrust kicks until Penta hit a sling blade. Penta wanted to snap the bad arm of Cassidy, who, I mean, every part of this guy's body has just been abused for months. He's been selling the hand. He's been selling the arm. You know, it's like he's being held together by glue. So he is trying to snap the bad arm. Cassidy fights back. He slid his hand into his pocket to stop him from doing so. Both men hit back-to-back destroyers, with Cassidy hitting another one for good measure, as another little piece of me died on the inside watching that. Why don't you hit 4 more? I don't know. Three or 4 isn't enough. Why not hit another half dozen of them while you're at it? So Penta countered an orange punch into a maiden Penta for a close 2 count. Penta wanted the fear factor. Cassidy, though, countered into a beach break, but he didn't get all of it. Penta blocked another orange punch, and he went to the apron. And on the apron, Penta hit a sickening fear factor on the ring apron. I mean, he dropped this guy right on his fucking head, and he rolled him back into the ring, and he made the cover, and at the very last second, Orange Cassidy gets a hold of the bottom rope for a rope break. So Penta then snaps the bad arm, and he hits Fear Factor again. Hits a clean Fear Factor in the middle of the ring. He goes for the pin on Cassidy, and Orange Cassidy kicks out. And at this point, Penta cannot believe it. He's in shock. He's looking, I think, he was looking at the referee or something. As he's selling the shock of this, Cassidy hooks a quick crucifix, and he takes Penta over, and he gets the flash pin to retain the title. Now, I want to be very clear. The match itself was good. It was a good match. We got some fast-paced action at the beginning, and I was enjoying the match up until the last 60 seconds, 90 seconds. It just got ridiculous. I'm not even talking about the destroyers earlier on. right? Because the destroyer at this point it's nothing. It doesn't mean anything. But he hits his finish. He hits the maiden Penta on the ring apron, and it looks great, right? It looks devastating. And I can almost buy it if Orange Cassidy got a foot or a hand or a finger on the bottom rope, right? As out of desperation, right? Presence of mind, breaks up the pin. He got a little pinky finger or something on the bottom rope. Like, I get that. And then for Penta to go ahead and hit it again, and for Cassidy to just kick out, which has been his MO. I mean, it's the gimmick. It's what he's been doing now since December. He's in these matches, he's beaten up, he's taped up, he's wrapped up, and people are hitting big moves on him, and he just keeps kicking out. And he gets these flash pins and these last second roll-ups or whatever in certain situations. This one, though, for whatever reason, just pushed my buttons more than usual and just made me shake my head. And, of course, immediately after that, he gets the crucifix, hooks him over, and wins the match. I didn't like that. So, up to that point, I was enjoying it, and then the finish just soured me. But Orange Cassidy, still the international champion. Post-match, though, he won me back when the match was over. Because this is something I was not expecting. So Cassidy, he calls for the microphone, and they give him a chair. He takes a seat in the middle of the ring, and he cuts his actual first real promo, like fiery promo, in front of the live crowd of his entire career. And he says he doesn't usually talk and his body really hurts. He said every title defense, his backpack gets a little bit heavier. But the international championship, he says, means everything to him. It's about somebody who was told he was too skinny, he was too short, he was too different to make it. He addressed Jon Moxley. He said that he better bring more than a fork because he would be the international champion for as long as he wants. He said his name is Freshly Squeezed Orange Cassidy, and he doesn't have a catchphrase. And he held up the international title. I was not expecting that out of him, although it is the natural evolution of the character that at some point he would have to start just acting semi-normal and would have to start cutting some real promos. And I thought he did a great job here. It's a great, fiery babyface promo. And the crowd cheered and everybody was happy. Jon Moxley walked to the ring. He gets inside. He kind of butts heads with Cassidy and then he slaps him. Cassidy comes back with a punch, which he sold as if, you know, almost like he broke his hand. Because, again, his hand is in rough shape. Moxley basically no-sold the punch. So they stared each other down to end the show. And that is how they closed out the show. And it just feels to me like he's reached the end of the road. He's been the champion for so long. He's picked up victory after victory after victory. This is the first time where he's addressed the crowd in this way. He cut this promo. Moxley is probably the biggest challenger, the biggest opponent as far as like star power wise that he has had since winning the championship. It's not as if Moxley needs the international title, but it feels like the time is right. And that run is probably, I say probably, because I've been wrong before. I thought he would drop it at Forbidden Door, whoever he was challenging at Forbidden Door. And then we went to All In, their biggest international show in company history, and the international title wasn't even defended, which is a joke. So I say probably, but it does feel like this has to be it. Where else does he go from here? Now, when he loses, the company loves Orange Cassidy. They love him. The fans love him. A lot of people hate his guts, but they're going to have to live with it because he's over to this audience. They love him. And his segments in the past, I don't know how they do, generally these days, but I know in the past, and it was one of the reasons why they were opening the show with him so often, his segments tended to do pretty good. So for them, he's one of their star attractions. When he loses the international title, the idea, I assume, is to elevate him higher up on the card. Maybe, TNT title status. Could I see him challenging for the world title at some point? Yes. Winning it? No. I think there are, plenty of other names ahead of him who deserve to be in that spot and should be in that spot, and are bigger names than him. But he's gotten a lot out of this reign that he's been on, but it just feels like the time is right to get that belt off of him. And we'll see if they pull the trigger on that on Sunday. But as far as the overall show, it was a very mid show. And again, I'm gonna give him a little bit of a pass just based on the circumstances. If in fact there were services today for Bray, there may have been people missing because of that. Injuries, travel issues, coming back from the UK, the hurricane. There were a lot of reasons why people were missing from the show tonight. They did not have their full crew. It was not all hands on deck. And they were dealt the cards they were dealt, and this is the show they put together. It was not one of the better Dynamites. It was a very mid show, but there were reasons for that. Now, this is the Twitter poll before I get into the preview for the pay-per-view, just to show you what people thought of the show tonight. They gave it a thumbs up, but it's a much weaker thumbs up than usual. This is like one of those Orange Cassidy thumbs up. 55.4% up, 44.6% thumbs down. And that is with almost 800 votes in so far. So again, you can vote at Solomonster on Twitter. Let me know what you thought of the show. Now, Rampage. On Friday night, here's the lineup for Rampage. We got a tag team battle royal with the winners facing MJF and Adam Cole for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles on Sunday at All Out. And as I said, no Kingdom. The teams that they listed were the Hardys, the Butcher and the Blade, Aussie Open, which makes sense because they were the former champs, Gates of Agony, Dark Order, the Wingmen. Yes, I saw Ryan Nemeth in the graphic. Ryan Nemeth may be banned from Collision, but they never said anything about Rampage. The Righteous, Best Friends, Action Andretti and Darius Martin. And I believe those are the only teams that I noticed. There might have been one other one in there. But the Kingdom was not listed. We had Willow Nightingale and Sky Blue against Anna Jay and Taya Valkyrie. Hangman Adam Page is going to be wrestling Brian Keith. And I am very familiar with Brian Keith, the bounty hunter. Brian Keith. I hired the bounty hunter to try to come into House of Glory to defeat Charles Mason. And unfortunately, he did not do so. So he'll be appearing against Hangman on Friday night. Collision on Saturday is a live show. The Outcasts are still together for now. Despite what happened on Sunday, they're still together. Saraya, Toni Storm, and Ruby Soho are going to be taking on Chris Statlander, Hikaru Shida, and Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, who we saw tonight on TV, which is, again, one of the reasons why they decided, I guess, to put that match together. The Acclaimed and Billy Gunn defend their trios titles against Matt Menard, Angelo Parker, and Daniel Garcia. And we're getting FTR Bald, Dax Harwood one-on-one with Switchblade Jay White, which actually should be very good. Because we've had a bunch of Dax singles matches this year, and generally speaking, they have all been very good to excellent. So the All Out card, the updated card now for the pay-per-view coming up on Sunday. This is the All Out card as things currently stand. And again, they may add another one or two matches between now and then. Cole and MJF, ROH tag titles on the line. Kenny Omega one-on-one with Konosuke Takeshita. That is the match I am most looking forward to on Sunday. That, as I look up and down this card, easily the biggest thing on the entire show. We have Luchasaurus defending the TNT Championship against Darby Allin. We have FTR and the Young Bucks against Bullet Club Gold. We have Orange Cassidy against Jon Moxley for the international title. Samoa Joe defending his ROH TV title against Shane Taylor. Chris Statlander defending the TBS title against Ruby Soho. And Miro against Powerhouse Hobbs. It does not feel like an all-out card. There are some potentially very good matches on this show. Even the 8-man tag should be excellent given who's involved. But I'm looking up and down this card, and there's just nothing really overly exciting about this show. And by the way, if Punk was on the show against Ricky Starks, I'm sure that would have been a very good match too. It could potentially still even happen. But that doesn't really change the overall look of the pay-per-view. Unless they did Punk and MJF. That would be, Punk and MJF or Punk and Omega, that would be a difference maker as far as, I think what people kind of view the show overall as being from a quality standpoint. But this does not scream All Out to me. But this is what Tony Khan has decided he's going to do every year. He's going to do them back-to-back weekends. So, hey, if he thinks he could put 10,000 people plus in the United Center every year for All Out regardless, then more power to him. He'll keep doing it. But I think that card suffers as a result. Now let's talk a little bit here about the 800-pound elephant in the room with the Pepsi tattoo on his arm. Let's talk about this CM Punk situation. CM Punk and Jack Perry are reportedly serving a suspension. This comes from Sports Illustrated. CM Punk and Jack Perry have been suspended for an altercation before the start of the All In pay-per-view. Sports Illustrated has confirmed. All In was scheduled to start with Punk against Samoa Joe, but due to the altercation, there was a quick but significant discussion about having a different match. The six-man tag pitting Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, and Hangman Page against Jay White, Juice Robinson, and Konosuke Takeshita opened the show. The wrestlers in the six-man were prepared to start the pay-per-view, but that turned out to be unnecessary. Punk and Joe opened the show as planned after Samoa Joe spoke with Punk, multiple sources confirmed. To the credit of Punk and Joe, their match took place without issue. Let's back up a little bit here for the benefit of those who don't know. Dominique Preston, thank you for the $7. You have been banned from Collision. Thank you for the $7 super chat. And by the way, for the people who are probably rolling their eyes and, oh my God, this again. Hey, how do you think I feel? How do you think I feel? Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, the Punk stuff gets people's gears going. Oh yeah, the engagement is great. Everybody's talking about the Punk situation and it's good for views and everything. Absolutely. No one is more sick of talking about this bullshit than me. But it's a story. It was one of the biggest stories all week. It will end up being one of the biggest stories of the summer. You can't ignore it. It has to be discussed. It has repercussions that are affecting the pay-per-view coming up this weekend. It has repercussions that will likely affect this company going forward long past this weekend. You can't just turn a blind eye to it and ignore it, or else you end up being like Tony Khan. You can't do that. So, to give people some background on the situation very quick, the Cliff Notes version. There was a situation a couple of months ago, and to me, in my mind, it was so insignificant that I didn't even talk about it on the podcast last week when it was first reported on, because Jack Perry and CM Punk had a disagreement 2 months ago. Who gives a shit, right? Who cares? But now it's turned into something much bigger. Jack Perry was apparently going on vacation to Hawaii. He was going to take at least a week off. He wanted to shoot an angle on TV, I guess involving a car, something involving real glass. As the story goes, he was denied by certain members of management. So whoever these people were, I know Tony Schiavone's name was mentioned. And so he was told no. CM Punk was then told to communicate this to Jack, as maybe this was something that was going to happen on Collision. So he was informed and he was asked to talk to him about it. And, Punk communicated to him that you weren't going to be doing that. You're not doing an angle with real glass. Now, how he communicated this, did he do it in a friendly way or did he do it in an abrasive way? I don't know. And apparently Jack didn't like that very much. Now, the idea of doing an angle with real glass is very stupid to begin with. So I side with management on that issue and Punk. I think it's a very stupid thing. And Punk may have made a comment to the effect of, you can do that stuff on Wednesdays, but you're not going to do that here. So that's the history, limited history between the two of them.
Solomonster a Punk hater?
Oh, an appropriate super chat here.
Punk so much. What did he ever do to him?
How very appropriate. Hey, Bobbert, thank you, man. Thank you for the 40, Bobbert. Bobbert Reviews. Always a big supporter here on the channel. We love Bobbert. Now, there was no Punk tonight on the show, which I wasn't expecting him to be anyway, because he's a Collision guy. right? He's not a Dynamite guy, although they have said that when the Elite are not there, Punk could occasionally appear on Dynamite. But I wouldn't have expected him on the show tonight anyway. And Jack Perry was not there, and normally he would be. So he wasn't on the show either. Punk wouldn't have been on the show regardless, though, because Punk is in Las Vegas. Or at least as of earlier, he was in Las Vegas because he was scheduled to be honored by the Cauliflower Alley Club at its annual banquet. He was honored with the 2023 Mike Mazurki Award, which recognizes, this is priceless. The award recognizes those who have made exceptional contributions to the pro wrestling industry and have exhibited outstanding dedication to the sport, both inside and outside the ring. Of all the fucking weeks for him to get that award, that's just, you can't make this shit up. You can't make this shit up. Although there will be some people who don't like Jack Perry and who like CM Punk who will say that CM Punk nearly choking out Jack Perry is his exceptional contribution outside the ring to the wrestling business. So anyway, that's where Punk was. He was getting his award, and apparently he was at the banquet. He was very nice. He was taking pictures with people. I had one person, mention that to me. They sent me a tweet earlier, and they said, oh, he was so nice. And people said, I said, okay, that's great. That's wonderful. I'm glad he was very nice. What does that have to do with all this other stuff going on? It's almost like, well, that excuses all this other stuff. Look how nice he's being to people. I would hope he is being nice. I wouldn't expect, if a fan came over and asked him for a photo at the banquet, what's he going to do? Going to put him in a front face lock? I would hope not. So anyway, he wasn't on the show tonight because he has his own playpen. Can't play with the other children, right? He stays in his own playpen. PW Insight, there have been so many different versions of the story about what happened on Sunday. And again, I'm not going to go through all of them here. I will have a much more detailed analysis on this weekend. And frankly, there may be even more information in the next few days that comes out about all this. PW Insider had their own version of things. I made a comment during my review on Sunday when Perry looked into the camera during his match with Hook. They did a spot on a car. He did a rolling thunder on the hood of a car to Hook, and then he rolled off the car, and he looked into the camera. It was a 3-second comment. He looked into the camera and said, "See, real glass, cry me a river." My first thought wasn't, oh, that was just that was a shot across the bow against CM Punk, because the stories were that management said no. When the story broke, there were tons of people on social media making comments about it and even agreeing with my opinion, which is that using real glass is stupid if you can avoid it. So I hear that, and initially I'm just like, it's not just a shot at Punk, it's a shot at everybody, right? It's a shot at Punk, it's a shot at all the people who are mouthing off on social media about what he should and shouldn't be doing. It's a shot at Tony Schiavone, who apparently said no. I didn't just look at it as a shot just against Phil Brooks. Although evidently Mr. Brooks there felt a little bit differently about it. But Mike Johnson, a PW Insider, said that, when he went, Jungle Boy went backstage, the story changes depending on whose version of it is told, depending on who they're friendly with. But the prevailing reporting seems to be that it was Punk who got physical first. Jack Perry made the comment that sparked the whole thing. Jack Perry was told by Punk when they passed each other, "You got a problem with me," and he didn't stand down. He made a comment to the effect of, "Well, you heard what I said out there." But it was Punk, supposedly, who initiated the physicality. There was either a bump or a push or a shove or a pie face, something like that, and Perry didn't stand down. He didn't just take it. He pushed back, he shoved back, and he ended up in some form of a front face lock. He wasn't choked unconscious. It sounded like a Chris Jericho Goldberg situation. That happened once before at Gorilla in WWE when Goldberg came into the company, where they got into a little scuffle, and Jericho supposedly put him in a front face lock, and it was quickly broken up. So that's kind of what it sounds like to me. Perry was asked to leave the stadium after the incident happened. His match was already over. He was asked to leave the stadium. He may or may not have been escorted out by security, so he left. Punk, now this comes from Fightful Select. One source said with 100% certainty that Jack Perry did not throw the first punch. Punk shoved him and put him in a choke. People who have spoken to Sean Ross Sapp told him that it was a punch, a shove, or a pie face, but it was not initiated by Jack Perry. Samoa Joe tried to play Peacemaker. Now here I thought John Cena was Peacemaker. But Samoa Joe tried to play Peacemaker here before things really escalated out of control. Punk did not talk to Tony Khan when the incident was over. Punk went as far as to tell some people that he, quote, hates this place. And the Golden Elite match was going to open the show until cooler heads prevailed and Punk went out there with Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe was very upset about this, supposedly, because he sees this going on. He's at the gorilla position. He's getting ready to go out there. This is a huge match for Joe. He's wrestling in front of 81,000 people, the biggest crowd of his life at Wembley Stadium. All he wants to do is go out there and work. And now he's standing there and he sees this bullshit going on and he has to get in there and he has to break it up. And somebody sent me a screenshot, which I didn't even notice. When Punk came out, or Joe came out on Sunday for his entrance and he got in the ring, on his arm looked to be some like dried up blood, which may well have come from Jack Perry for all we know. So I don't know if that came from the fight or not, but I could just imagine Joe getting ready. You know, he got the towel, he's getting ready to go out there, and he looks over and he sees this going on. So it's not hard to imagine that he would get hot about the whole thing. He thought his match was in jeopardy. Punk apparently didn't want to go out there. He had to be talked into it. Cooler heads prevailed. He went out there and they ended up having a very good match, but I can understand why Samoa Joe would be so upset. Now, Tony Khan apparently saw the whole thing because it happened right there at the gorilla position. And in fact, some monitors may have fallen on Tony. So now he's physically involved. He's physically involved in this whole situation. Literal shit is falling on top of this guy. He's the owner of the company, watching all of this happen. So several people said Punk threatened to quit. He didn't want to go out for the match. And again, I'm not even going to get into these other details here. And then you have Tony Khan at the end of the show on Sunday. He comes out for the media scrum. And he sits down and he's talking about this is a monumental event for AEW. 81,000 people. The biggest paid crowd, he says, in wrestling history. He said that over and over again all night, right? The biggest paid crowd in wrestling history. And they did like a $10 million gate and like all around. It should have been heralded as the biggest night, the biggest success in the history of this company. And in many ways it was. But then before he could even take questions from people, he has to open this press conference, this media scrum, by telling people, let's address the big controversy here. Yes, there was an incident. So he admits there was an incident. I still have people telling me, oh, it's a work or it's fake and don't believe the reports. This didn't happen. These people are just obviously out to lunch. The owner of the company literally admitted that there was an incident. And I can assure you, that's not part of an angle. It's not a work. He didn't want to start his media scrum for this event by saying, yes, we've had another incident and now there's another investigation and I can't comment on it. I can't talk about it. I'm sure that's the last thing that Tony Khan wanted to go into that room and have to say to people is that we have another investigation. Investigation number 2. How can he not be pissed off? How can he not be upset? How can he not be embarrassed by this? That this is happening again almost a year to the day with the same person involved. There's a common denominator here. A year almost to the day. Brawl out, brawl in. He should be contacting Nick Khan to try to work out some kind of deal. He's buying the rights to all these songs. I wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to buy the rights to the Brawl for All and he can host his own event next year. This time next year, it'll be the Brawl for All. Now, Wade Keller of the Pro Wrestling Torch said that while Tony Khan has been a fan of Punk and tried to excuse his behavior or accommodate him in a way to steer him away from these volatile situations. Punk's conduct on Sunday could be a breaking point for Tony Khan. PW Torch has learned that Punk confronted Tony Khan in his locker room in what has been characterized as a heated, intense manner. And at one point, according to 3 sources who have heard about the situation, told Khan he quit, and he chewed out Tony Khan with some, quote, harsh phrasing. Now, they also reported this thing because some people have asked me about the travel stuff. And Keller was the one who talked about the fact, and you know, we saw the pictures of Punk on the tube, right? On the train, taking the train to Wembley, and there was nobody there to pick him up. And, you know, when he got out at the airport, he was all disoriented. He was lost. He didn't know where to go. And it was reported that there was nobody there to pick him up, as if other people were picked up, but not CM Punk. Sean Ross Sapp earlier today noted that it is not true that there was no transportation provided to any of the talent, which is something that was also reported this week. Apparently there was some kind of a shuttle or whatever it was. There was something for talent to pick them up from the airport to take them to Wembley Stadium, but within a certain time frame. And if you missed the shuttle, you could just call an Uber and take an Uber to the stadium and you would be reimbursed. So whatever it cost you, Uber, Lyft, whatever, the company would reimburse you for the expense. So when CM Punk decided to, take the train instead of calling an Uber, you would have to ask him why he did that. I have no idea why he decided to take the train. If he truly was lost and did not know where to go, and he was asking people for directions, fans felt bad for him and were like, okay, let me help you. If he didn't know where he was going, I don't know why he would have taken the train unless he wanted to take the train. Because why wouldn't you just call an Uber? Everybody has the app on their phone for Uber or Lyft or some kind of service. Especially if you're a wrestler, if you're someone who travels a lot and has to go to hotels or airports and stuff. These days, everybody's got Uber on their phone. So why he wouldn't just call an Uber or hail a cab from the airport and then get reimbursed later on, why he chose to do what he did, you'd have to ask him. Because that just doesn't make any real sense to me. But it's not a case where everybody else had their own personal chauffeur when they got to the airport, but CM Punk did not. And then there were people who said, well, the AEW travel coordinator, there's a travel coordinator who works for the company, and they found this person's Twitter, supposedly. I don't know if this person is legit or not. And then when they were found, they took the title, the AEW travel coordinator title, out of their bio, and they unliked a series of tweets that they had previously liked favoring the elite. So the implication is that there's a person in travel for AEW who sabotaged CM Punk by not having somebody there to pick him up when he got to the airport. And when he called a number, nobody picked up, like he was sabotaged, okay? It sounds like a conspiracy theory and paranoia to me. If it's true, if there is somebody working for AEW who doesn't like CM Punk or thought it would be funny to sabotage his travel, and they can prove that, then that person should lose their job. That person should no longer be the AEW travel coordinator. If that's true, then that person should be fired. I agree. But whether that actually happened or not, I don't know, and I frankly don't really care. If it put Punk in a bad mood, if he was in a bad mood coming into Wembley Stadium over the travel or whatever he may have been in a bad mood for, look, people have bad days, right? I can be in a mood. I'm in a mood on most days. Fucking people I have to deal with. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be getting into physical confrontations with people. I'm going to be getting up in people's faces. I'm going to be putting my hands on people. So whether he was in a bad mood or a good mood shouldn't matter. What I have noticed throughout this entire thing, CM Punk is very easily triggered by comments. It doesn't take much to get under his skin and for him to fly off the handle, whether it's Ryan Nemeth on Twitter or whether it's Jack Perry on Sunday, no matter how big or small of a star in stature that you may be. CM Punk is easily triggered by comments. This is the same man who came back to the company in June after being suspended and being gone for 9 months, and apparently wanted badly to make this work and wanted badly to come back, and they gave him his own show, and clearly he has a lot of creative control and power over that show. Tony Khan bent over backwards for this guy despite everything that happened last year and gave him basically what he wanted. He comes back in June on that first Collision, and he cuts that promo where he is taking digs at other members of the roster. And he had that comment about the counterfeit bucks, which I actually thought was kind of a clever comment. That actually didn't bother me. But he does that. A few weeks ago, he goes out there when the show goes off the air, he gets on the mic, and he's making comments and taking digs about Hangman Page, who he already gave a verbal receipt to a year ago for the comments that Hangman made workers' rights in that first promo back in May before they had their match. And he got hurt, so he sat at home with a broken foot for like 2.5 months, stewing. Until finally, he got his chance and he went on live television. He sat cross-legged in the ring, even though Hangman wasn't there. And he said, I challenge you to come out. And nobody came out. And then he said, the apology needs to be as loud as whatever it was that he said. Called him out on TV. He gave him a receipt. And so here we are a year later, and now he's mouthing off again about Hangman Page. There's no match to promote. There's no plans for the two of them to work together. It's not part of a work, which I even initially thought that maybe they're setting something up for All Out. Punk will wrestle Joe or someone at All In, and then they'll do something with him and Hangman, a big match in Chicago at All Out. Even I was thinking there has to be a reason for him to go out there and do that. He can't be this fucking stupid to inflame things. For someone who wants things to be calmed down, why would you go out and do that? Well, didn't stop him from going out there and making comments. He's a peg warmer. I do better business than he does. Then we find out later, it didn't come out the way that he wanted it to. It was taken out of context. It's not the way that he wanted those comments to be read by people. And then supposedly he texted an apology to Hangman via text. He apologized to him. Now we have Jack Perry, who makes a 3-second remark, and Punk has a meltdown. So what I get out of this whole thing is he can dish it, but he can't take it. It's okay for him to make comments. But it's not okay for anybody else to make even the slightest remark. And if they do, it's like Mount Vesuvius is exploding. It's like a volcanic eruption. He just loses his mind. Should Jack Perry have said anything? No. There was no reason for him to make the comment that he made on Sunday. When he looked in the camera and said what he said. There was no reason for him to do that, but Punk should not have reacted the way that he did. You can't live by a different set of rules when it comes to these types of like little pot shots and digs. You can't expect to live by a different set of rules just because you are a bigger star. You don't, it's a situation where if you're a bigger star, you get to act like a brat and nobody else can. That's not the way this works. That's not the way that it should be. Ryan Nemeth, I mentioned Ryan Nemeth, okay? And we're going to see Ryan Nemeth back on Rampage. He's going to be back on TV this week. Ryan Nemeth, who barely gets on television. Before this Friday coming up, I couldn't even tell you the last time I saw a Ryan Nemeth match, okay? When Dark was around in Dark Elevation, which hasn't been around for months, I know he was on there a lot. Here's a guy who barely gets any television time. He's been out picketing with the worker, the SAG strike. That's what he's been doing. He finally gets the call a few weeks ago to come in for Collision. And so they fly him in for Collision. He gets turned away from the building because of a tweet that he posted 2 months ago, right after Punk, actually I think it was the night of, when he came back at first Collision and he made the counterfeit bucks comment and a few other comments in his promo. Ryan Nemeth, his big strike against him was he went on Twitter and he posted a tweet that said about Punk, clearly, the softest man alive. I think it was literally the softest man alive, is what he said. Because there was some talk about people being soft in the promo. And so a few days later at Dynamite, Punk gets up in his face. Like he's ready to throw down with this guy in the octagon. Not even a situation where, okay, he wants to say something, and so he'll go over and say, hey, you got a second? I just want to talk to you about something. Apparently, gets up in his face. He's angry. You want to take this outside. Like he's ready to throw down. And Nemeth, of course, he's like, whoa, what's going on here, you know? But that's his reaction to a tweet saying, literally the softest man alive. You would think Punk was ready to just rip him in half. Look at The Miz. You remember the whole Miz situation from many years ago? I mean, we're probably going back, I don't know, fucking 6-7 years at this point now. The Miz makes what was really a tongue-in-cheek, lighthearted comment about changing the culture. It was on a talk show. It was on that Fox Sports Net show that they had that Punk was doing the hosting for a while. I guess Punk was out that week. Miz was in. When Punk came back, on that show, he made a comment, we're going to change the culture. So he was out one week. Miz was the special guest on there, and he made a comment about changing the culture, right? That's all he said. That's all the Miz said. You know what CM Punk responded with? CM Punk responded to this by tweeting at Miz and telling him to go suck a blood-covered dick in Saudi Arabia. I believe the exact tweet was, go suck a blood-covered dick in Saudi Arabia, you fucking dork. That was the response to the comment that Miz made. Punk has apologized in the last year more times than he has probably apologized in his entire life. And the man is almost mid-40s now, right? He's almost 45 years old. He has probably said, I'm sorry, in some form or fashion more times in the last 12 months than he has in his entire life. Brawl Out last year, what went down at the Scrum, he apologized to Tony Khan for it. He admitted as much in the interview that he gave a while back to Sports Illustrated. He apologized to Tony Khan. He posted that tweet about Miz many years ago. And then remember a few months ago where he popped up backstage at Raw? That was a big story there for about a day or two. He wanted to talk to different people. He wanted to talk to Triple H and didn't get his meeting with Triple H. He ended up being asked to leave the building, but he did apparently have an extended talk with The Miz to make amends and to apologize for flying off on him all those years ago the way that he did. Which I know took Miz aback because Miz didn't think that there was any issue between them and he couldn't understand why Punk would react that way. So he apologizes to Miz backstage at Raw. A few weeks ago, he goes off on Hangman Page. What does he do? He apologizes to Hangman Page. And you still have people, and I get being a CM Punk fan, right? He's got a lot of fans out there. Nothing wrong with being a fan of CM Punk. But you got people out there who are such big fans of his that he can do no wrong. Punk has not done anything wrong at any point. Apparently, at no point in the man's life has he ever done anything wrong. When the man himself has apologized time after time after time for various things over the past year. Why would you apologize for something if you didn't do anything wrong? Apparently, he thinks he must have done something wrong for him to apologize to all these different people. Ryan Nemeth was right. The softest man alive. You know, in the past, he's talked about working with children, and I work with children. Look, me personally, I don't care if it's 180-pound Jack Perry or whoever it may be on that roster. If he wants to be a locker room leader, if he wants to set an example for people on that roster, and there are a lot of young talents. There's a lot of young people on that roster, younger than he is. And if he wants to be a leader, if he wants to set an example for all of those people, you cannot put your hands on people every single time you feel slighted. It's one thing to say somebody attacked him, physically attacked him first, and he was just defending himself. Even then, in certain situations, there are ways to deal with it instead of escalating things. But look, if somebody puts their hands on you, you're gonna fight back. I get that, right? But a lot of the reports don't indicate that it was a situation where Punk was attacked first. He's the one doing the attacking because he feels slighted. He feels provoked. He feels disrespected in some way. It does not give you the right to go around and put your hands on people and act like a fucking spoiled brat. Which is exactly what it sounds like he's acting like. You can call Jack Perry a brat. Punk acts like the biggest brat of all. I mean, that's what a lunatic who needs anger management acts like. So the question now is, what does Tony Khan do? What should Tony Khan do? It's his company. He's going to make the decision. Right now, supposedly, they're both suspended. There's an investigation going on. And Tony Khan, if he was right in the center of it, he's going to be the chief witness to the entire thing. He apparently knows exactly what happened. How long is this investigation going to go? The investigation could be over in a day or two. He may find that Punk didn't do anything worthy of, being fired or taking him off the card. He could very well still end up on the card on Sunday. It is not out of the realm of possibility. Right now, it does not look very likely that he's going to be on the card on Sunday. Jack Perry, I think it's fine. Him being suspended or even fined a certain amount of money, I think would be appropriate in a situation like this because he had his part that he played in escalating this as well. But I have not heard anything. And we hear all these stories about AEW. We've heard stories about Sammy Guevara getting into fights and Andrade and Eddie Kingston. It's not like it's just a CM Punk issue where people have gotten physical behind the scenes in this company, which goes to management. But we've had all these different things go down. And as far as Jack Perry goes, I think that's an appropriate thing. But I've not heard any stories about him getting into physical fights with people or causing problems before. With CM Punk, I talked about the Brawl Out thing a year ago on the podcast. And I put the video on YouTube. It's up right now if you want to go back and listen to it. And I said in that video, it is time for Tony Khan to part ways with CM Punk. I said that a year ago. I said that this is not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. Especially if the parties, there's legal things involved. They don't even want to get in the same room together. It's only going to get worse. When he made the decision to bring back CM Punk and he was going to basically cut the roster in half, in effect, and give Punk his own show on Saturdays, and you still had all of these unresolved issues with these people, this was a disaster waiting to happen. Only I didn't expect that it was going to be Jack Perry to set things off. But here we are, a year later, right back in the same situation. It is embarrassing. It's embarrassing for this company that they have to go through this for a second time. So, CM Punk, huge star, huge attraction for this company. I could totally understand why Tony Khan would want to keep him around. He loves CM Punk. We had the report when Punk came back in June at Collision, he was on headset at the gorilla position going, CM Punk, CM Punk. I could totally picture him doing that. Tony Khan likes CM Punk. Tony Khan has said that when he started AEW, the number one name on his list that he wanted to get was CM Punk. So we know he's a fan of his. Now there are other considerations here. Warner Brothers Discovery apparently also likes Punk, and they wanted him very much to be the centerpiece of this new show on Saturdays. Tony Khan is in the middle of negotiations for his next television rights deal. He needs Collision to be a success. So he decided, we're going to bring Punk back, we're going to acquiesce to his demands, we're going to do what we can to keep him happy, and to keep all the parties involved away from each other as best we can, and we're going to try to manage this. Because we need this show to be a success. And Collision has been an excellent show. Not just because of CM Punk. By the way, if you'll notice, over the last few weeks, CM Punk has almost been a non-factor on Collision. It's almost as if he's being phased down on Collision these last few weeks. With him or without him, the pacing of the show, the commentary, the longer matches, the FTR matches that we've seen, that fucking great match, 2 out of 3 falls, FTR against Bullet Club Gold, FTR against Cole and MJF, right? Punk had nothing to do with any of that stuff as far as being a part of it, but there's been a lot to love about Collision. But Tony Khan has to make a decision here. What is more important in the long term? Is it more important to try to keep Collision a success by keeping Punk on the show at the expense of keeping his locker room situation as unstable as it clearly still is? Or is it more important to get his house in order and to make sure that stuff like this does not happen again, even if it means he has to take some sort of a short-term hit, business-wise? I think the first thing he should do, if he makes the call that I think he should make, talk to his bosses. Talk to the people that he's in touch with at Warner Brothers Discovery and make sure they understand, because they have to know what's going on. Explain the situation to them and say, look, we tried to make this work. This is not going to work. This is the decision I'd like to make. We're going to make this work with Collision, but it can't be with him. And make the decision to cut ties. Because his one chance was squandered after what happened last year. He doesn't get a second or third or a fourth chance. Last year should have been enough. Last year was embarrassing. Last year was an embarrassment. That should have been it. But he gave him a second chance. Here we are again. There should not be a third chance and a fourth chance and a fifth chance just because, oh, he's a big star. And what Tony Khan should do is he should get his entire roster together, whether it's in a backstage meeting, whether it's in the ring before one of the shows, one of these nights, and he should do it this week. But I understand not everybody was there tonight. But get everybody in a ring and say, look, we are coming off of our biggest show ever. And all of you had a hand in making that possible. We had 80,000 plus people at Wembley Stadium. I have never been more proud of this roster and of this company than I am right now. You should all be very proud. But I also have another thing I'd like to let everybody know, which is that everybody is aware of the situation, the incident that unfolded, and we're dealing with that. Going forward, we are going to have a zero tolerance policy for this kind of stuff moving forward. We cannot continue to have situations where these things are allowed to get out of control. People think that they can just freely walk up to people and start confrontations, even right in front of me, right by the curtain, right at the gorilla position. It's not like these things haven't happened before in WWE or in other promotions. There have always been backstage fights in wrestling, going back generations. But here's the difference. Here's my read on the situation. Just my read. Okay? And if I'm wrong, I would love somebody there to tell me I'm wrong. It strikes me that when things like this are happening on a constant basis, right? And I pointed out we had Sammy Guevara once with Eddie Kingston, and we had Andrade and Sammy Guevara, right? Because this has happened with other people as well. They have Jungle Boy, who apparently had no fear on Sunday and thought that he could do what he did. They don't seem to have a whole lot of fear for Tony Khan. And I think that's part of the problem. Tony Khan seems like a nice guy. Tony Khan seems like a guy who wants to get along with everybody on his roster. And there are a lot of people who seem to be very close to him, and they speak very highly of him. And it's a very different environment than it would be, let's say, in WWE, which is maybe more regimented and almost more corporate. And I don't know that there are as many people on that roster that maybe have the same relationship with Vince McMahon or a Triple H that people in AEW might have with Tony Khan. It's like they're friends. And that's the problem. That's the problem. I think that they are mistaking his kindness for weakness. And he is now faced with a situation where if they are mistaking his kindness for weakness, then it's time that he puts his foot down and lets them know that from now on, that's not how these things are going to go. That's not how this is going to be. And if these sorts of things happen again in the future, you deal with it on a case-by-case basis. Certain situations are more egregious than others. I'm not saying the first incident you're fired. You take it on a case-by-case basis, but you deal with it. You don't let it fester. You don't let it get worse. You don't take a hands-off kind of laissez-faire approach with it. You deal with it head-on. If there's a problem, you call that person into your office right away like you would at any other company, any other industry, any other profession. You don't let it fester. You deal with the problem before it gets worse. You have an infection, you treat the infection. If you don't treat the infection, it spreads and then you die. Can't have that. He has to put his foot down at some point. They don't seem to have a whole lot of respect for this guy. They're fucking fighting in front of him. He's got fucking monitors falling on top of him. They don't seem to respect him. They don't fear him. He has to make them fear him. That's part of the problem here. I honestly believe that. But as far as Punk is concerned, if he is in a situation where he feels he can't trust a lot of people that he works with, if he's already reaching his breaking point where he's like, I hate this place, I want out of here, give him what he wants. I understand it might be a whole process. You can't just say, all right, you're done, goodbye. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out, right? There's certain legal things that have to be considered here, given the situations that he's been in, right? I'm sure Tony Khan doesn't want him to turn around and sue him. But it's time to part ways. This is not going to work out. Thank you for your service. Thank you for all that you did for this company. Our first $1 million buy rate, right? Our first big crowd at the United Center when he made his debut. There were a lot of positive moments with CM Punk, and it's a damn shame because there could have been a lot more. But I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. We're going to go in a different direction. It's time. It was time a year ago, but it's time now. And I don't say that as somebody, I know, again, oh, you hate CM Punk. All I can say to try to convince these people is that I don't say this from a place of hatred. I say this from a place of frustration just as a fan. When I read about this stuff and I see this stuff play out the way that it's played out, it's frustrating. Because when Punk came in, I, like a lot of other people, were fantasy booking all kinds of matches that he can be in. Look, the reviews that I've been doing here on this channel over the last few weeks, talking about All In and All Out, and don't do CM Punk and MJF because that's a match that deserves to have proper build. You got to get, a whole, months and months worth of build to this match, and the promos on television. That's a big match. Don't just blow it off at All Out on 1 week build, because it's a match that I thought Tony Khan should book. It's a match that I wanted to see happen at some point. CM Punk and Samoa Joe, I'm glad we got to see it. I thought CM Punk and Jay White could have had a program together, and CM Punk and Kenny Omega, maybe they would have been willing to work together at some point, even if the Young Bucks didn't want to work with him, right? There were a lot of potential opponents for him and Ricky. They wrestled in the Owen, probably would have wrestled this Sunday. I feel bad for Ricky Starks in this whole thing, because if that was the match and Punk is still suspended, Ricky Starks gets fucked, because supposedly it might have been him and Ricky in the main event on Sunday. What does Ricky Starks do now? That's his big match. Big opportunity for him. Down the drain. For what? For what? Because Dylan McKay's son made a 3-second comment on camera that got him hot and bothered? There were a lot of potential matches for CM Punk that I would have liked to have seen. How can I hate the guy if I'm pitching ideas for what I'd like to see him doing on TV? But sometimes you just got to cut your losses. Sometimes it's just not worth the aggravation. It's not worth the damage that you are doing to your own company. Enough is enough. The time has come. That's my take on the situation. And here I said I was going to give you the Cliff Notes version. Every time I say that, I end up, going even deeper into the abyss. But there you go. And that's not even everything. I'm sure I'll have even more to say about this in a few days. But I hope I have at least communicated the reasons why I feel the way that I feel. It will not stop the people from accusing me of being a hater and this and that, and you're this and you're that. I expect it. I would expect nothing less from these people. A lot of very simple-minded morons out there. Hopefully you are not one of them. I hope I have communicated all the reasons why I feel the way that I feel, and the way that I think Tony Khan should handle the situation. But again, far be it from me to tell him what to do with his own business, I guess. He's going to do what he wants to do. And guess what? We're going to be right back here a year from now, and we're going to be doing this all over again. See what you guys have to say about this situation. Oh man, went longer than I wanted to. Fuck. But I'm serious. I think that's a very big part of it. I think they don't fear him. It's almost like they look at their boss as their equal. That's kind of the sense that I get. I'm not in the locker room. I've never claimed to be in the locker room. I don't claim to have inside knowledge. I am an observer like many of you are. I read the same stories. I try to absorb as much information as I can from as many different sources as possible, and I try to parse the bullshit from what I think is not bullshit. And what I am reading and what I am seeing and what I am hearing time and time and time again is that it's like Tony is their friend. So they feel they can get away with stuff like this. This shit wouldn't fly anywhere else. Fire Panda, I think it started, boy, oh man, we gotta go back a ways here. Fire Panda, thank you for the 70 plus. I don't even know, is Fire Panda still with us? I hope she is. You were very hard, oh, here we go, into Fire Panda mode. I was very harsh on AEW fans on Monday. Because you don't know what it means to be a fan in 2023, I think you should apologize for. You should apologize to me for them. And then Fire Panda, I am the voice of the voiceless, and you will apologize to me, and you will like it. Fire Panda, I love you. Thank you. The Winston Slip. Everyone here is so cool, calm, and collected. GWO. Yeah, we got a good group here. I mean, they tolerate me every week, right? So they have to be good people. Ginger Sculpion. Just dropping some support. You've earned it. Hey, Ginger, thank you for the $6. Naughty Delicious Chicken with Flavor. After hearing more reports coming out from the CM Punk Jack Perry incident, in my opinion, no one wins. Both parties and the third party is at fault. No, but nobody is blameless in this situation. But there is a person with a track record of different incidents, and there is one who does not have a track record. And so the punishment should not be equal. I think the other person has squandered their last opportunity. If these reports are correct, look, they're doing an investigation, right? Who knows what their investigation may find? We may never know, because it's not like they told us the first investigation what they found. We may not know the results of this one either, but I don't know. The reports now are starting to become a little more consistent. Naughty Delicious, after hearing more reports, Punk should have ignored Jack Perry's pettiness. This guy has enough stress and he's letting Jack Perry's pettiness get in his head. What the fuck? We have to Punk. If you fight, they won't say Perry forced you to. They'll say that you're in over your head, that you don't belong here. Oh, that's for Punk. For Jack Perry, he says, I'm disappointed with him on the biggest event. This guy picked the wrong time and place to be acting this petty. This was arrogant and selfish to say that on camera. His suspension can be his vacation. Yeah, I mean, I think a fine and/or a suspension is warranted. But for Punk, Brawl Out last year was his warning. He's already been suspended once. I mean, how many chances are you going to give one person to go out there and hang themselves? They're hanging you too. Naughty says, I also blame Tony Khan for the incident that happened. It was a fatal mistake to put Punk's match next after Jack Perry's match was over. But again, just think about what you're saying there. Tony Khan has to book around this stuff because what? It might upset Punk? Is he that fragile? I think we know the answer to that. But is this man that fragile that you have to book around him on your biggest show? This is what Tony Khan has to concern himself with? Mr. Notorious Chico, I really fear for AEW as a company because Tony Khan is acting more like a fanboy than a boss. And if he keeps allowing the inmates to run, AEW won't last. Naughty Delicious says, CM Punk is already in the wrong, but he was right to chew out Tony Khan for allowing the incident to manifest. 3 wrongs cannot make a right. Peter Cordieri says, "What's up, peeps?" That was the $99.99 drop before I even went live. That's how many of these we have to get through here. By the way, the likes goal for Be the Booker was 400, and we are already over 600, so let's shoot for 7. PB, no matter what happens to Punk, I really appreciate his "I'm old, I'm hurt, and I work with children" line. Thank you for all that you do. Nick Grasso, after Brawl In, I'm seriously done with CM Punk. Tony Khan needs to cut his losses and buy him out. Peter says nothing. Peter just drops $1.99. Hey, Peter, thank you. The Winston Slit, Solo, the hardest working podcaster on the internet. I don't know about on the internet, but I do work my ass off for you guys. Nick Grasso says, this back-to-back pay-per-view thing was a really bad idea. Tony Khan needs to change it next year. Why are we getting Ring of Honor matches on this pay-per-view? I thought it was AEW All Out, not ROH All Out. Well, you'll have to ask Tony Khan. I don't know. HBKC83, scale from 1 to 10, chances that Damian Priest cashes in on Seth Rollins at Payback, becoming the new World Heavyweight Champion. If Rhea Ripley did not make the comment that she made on Monday about how there's going to be changes made to the Judgment Day if both he and Balor don't leave with gold, then I would have said, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would have put it at like an 8 or a 9. But now I'm thinking it's more like a 3 or a 4. Brandon Proctor, thank you for the 7. Been a huge Punk fan since his Ring of Honor days.
It's the amazing Gunther.
Oh.
Jerry Lawler loves Gunther the Magnificent. All hail Gunther.
Yukio rules with a $50 Gunther. Is that our first Gunther of the night? I was in the zone, so I wasn't really paying attention. Hey, Yukio, thank you, man. Always love seeing those magenta and red super chat boxes pop up. I'll get to yours in a little bit. Brandon says, though, been a huge Punk fan since his ROH days, but it is time for Tony Khan to cut his losses and get rid of him. He is not worth all of this bullshit. Timothy Tillis, didn't have to work today. So glad I caught a Sound Off live stream with by far the greatest YouTuber and podcaster. That's very kind of you. Thank you, Timothy. No cap. I know Tony would never allow it, but can he hire some real bookers? Kevin Nash said that it's a nightmare just doing 2 live shows a week. I mean, supposedly he's got some people assisting him behind the scenes. I don't know exactly what the team looks like. I know Tony Schiavone has different hats, and he's got Christopher Daniels is helping in some capacity, and there's other people as well. As far as the booking from show to show, though, I mean, it still may be majority Tony Khan, you know, and it's a lot for one person to have on their plate, plus to deal with all this other bullshit. It's a lot. Timothy says, it's so weird they're having another pay-per-view right after another one. Card looking kind of mid, but we will see. The one thing about AEW shows, and WWE has had an incredible streak of pay-per-views this year. I actually thought SummerSlam was probably the worst of all the ones they've done, and you know, it wasn't terrible, but it was the weakest of all the pay-per-views this year. But AEW, they know how to do pay-per-views. The quality, the in-ring quality of their pay-per-views is second to none. So even with a card that looks kind of mid, chances are they'll go out there and have a very good show. But I agree. I mean, it doesn't look and feel like what an all-out card should feel like. Hey, Bobbert, thank you for the $7. Timothy, thank you for the buck. Brandon says, looks like I chose the right pay-per-view. All Out looks meh. Zachariah Sitchin with the 1999. Zachariah is in the camp that Edge re-signs with WWE because of the backstage BS. Mercedes better stay away. She tried to change Vince's mind on the tag belt. She will fail to get Tony Khan to change his ways on the way that AEW books the women.
Here dropping all this money on me. Hey, I just want you to know.
Oh boy.
I think you rock. I don't mean The Rock.
Oh, it's the same shirt. Look at that.
You rock. And I just wanted you to know, man.
Now, is it the same one, or do I have 3 of these? Because I really do like the shirt. Shout out to Liquid Blue. ABK dropping another Hundy Bomb on me. I think that's the 3rd one. Is that the 3rd one of this stream? How many did we have the other night? ABK. Fuck. Oh, man. I'm without speech. I was trying to think of something witty to say, but I don't know what to say. Marquand says, I work for ABK now. Yeah, I think I do. I think I work for ABK. I'm his head booker. But Zachariah, thank you. Yeah, Mercedes is probably on her way in when she's healed up from her ankle injury, but doesn't mean that she's signing a contract. I have every expectation that she's going to be wrestling there, but that doesn't mean she's actually signing with AEW. Rizzo says, good evening, chat and Solo. Please, wrestling gods, let's not have any major news break tomorrow so we can give Solomonster a day off. Amen. Well, Solomonster never truly has a day off, but I know what you mean. I also am hoping for a quiet day. Especially after the nature of last week's news. We don't need any more of that. Tris Riley, I'm glad I subscribed a while back. Glad to be here. Keep up the great work. Hey, Tris, thank you for the 20. That's very kind of you. There's ABK. That might be the first one. It's funny. We just had the 3rd one. That's his first one. That's how far behind we are. ABK says, hello. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? I got Eric Bischoff's theme song now playing in my head. Jacob Donnelly with the $25 Brie mode. Here's Brie mode in case your day hasn't been irritating enough.
Look at Richie Rich over here dropping all this money on me.
Oh my God.
I just want you to know, I think you rock.
Oh,
I don't
man.
mean The Rock, A-Rock. You rock.
Oh, man.
And I just wanted you to know that.
Boots! Boots! Who put the boot on my neck the other day with 120 gifted memberships the other night, which was incredible. That's the all-time record, by the way, for one stream. But Boots, I love you, buddy. Oh, Boots. Boots his disappeared. I'm gonna get to his in about 4 days when I get through all of these.
Look at Richie Rich over here dropping all this money on me. Hey,
oh my God.
I just want you to know, I think you rock.
What in the world is going on here?
You rock. And I just wanted you to know that.
You know, it is weird seeing it's like a mirror image. I'm looking at myself and I'm listening to myself it's like I'm telling myself that I rock. But I don't rock, you do. It's just weird. Gonna be dreaming about that super chat there. Was that ABK again? I wasn't even paying attention. I think that was ABK. I believe it was. Choking me out here. Like Jack Perry. Oh man. All right, well, and there's the Pat Sajak chicken wing there. Let's speed this up here because we got to get to the ABK ones that came later. Carlos, thank you, says Orange Cassidy is my top 5 in AEW. Thanks for the review, Solomonster. Well, thank you, Carlos. Thank you for tuning in. Hi, Jazz. Bigger pushover. Vince McMahon with Shawn Michaels, Eric Bischoff with Hulk Hogan, or Tony Khan with CM Punk. That's actually a very good question. See, that's a good question. Bigger pushover. I am inclined to go with Bischoff and Hogan, but Vince McMahon was pretty forgiving when it came to a lot of the shit that Shawn Michaels did. That's a tough one. I think you stumped me. I don't know. I have to think about that one. I'm inclined to go with Bischoff and Hogan, though. Because I can't envision any situation where if Hogan did anything even remotely close to this, that Bischoff would actually do anything to punish him. At least Tony Khan will actually suspend someone for a while he investigates. I'm not even sure Bischoff would go that far with Hogan. So it's got to be Bischoff and Hogan. ABK says, here's another solo because you are the best. I've listened to you since 2013. There's CM Punk. Oh, I didn't do that. I didn't make it. I didn't make that, but I thought that was a funny one. It's kind of how he's been acting lately. Come to think of it, that super chat image is actually quite appropriate. AABK, man, thank you for that one. That was number 2, I believe. Brother Fluff Salisbury. Loved the OC promo at the end of the show. It was the first time that I ever heard him say that he cared about something. I know, he actually showed some life. He actually showed some interest in something. Like he had a pulse. Josiah Ball. Thank you for the super chat. Fire Panda has the red skull. She's so excited. Well, you've been a channel member for a year. So I believe it's 12 months you get a red skull next to your name. I think it's 24 months. Correct me if I'm wrong. I should know this. I think 24 months is the gold skull. I know we got some gold skulls in here with us. Zachariah with the 1999. One last thought. There is an ongoing investigation. Tony Khan calls it. What need is there when he saw the whole thing? At this point, Triple H was right. The way he runs the company, Tony Khan needs to man up and stop acting like a bitch. That is from Zachariah. He's cutting right to the chase. Joey. I would love Christian to come out on TV and say I was right to turn on Jack Perry. Paul Carpenter, Ledge is all elite. Ledge? Is that what Edge is going to call himself since he can't legally call himself Edge in AEW? He's going to put an L in front of it, call himself Ledge? I don't know what else that would be in reference to. That would actually be pretty funny if he did that. Here comes Ledge. I like that. M. Jackson with the 10 spot. Only podcaster I listen to because your opinions are balanced and honest. Others feel the need to either blindly praise everything AEW does or shit on everything. It is unbearable. Never change, my friend. I make that promise to you. I say what I mean and I mean what I say. I mean, again, nothing is universally good or universally bad. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are some universally bad things, but generally speaking, there are always shades of gray. Sometimes things are good, sometimes they're not. Unfortunately, you have people that are so attached to one side or the other that if you have even the slightest difference of opinion, they go into attack mode. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the way the world is right now. Wedge is another suggestion I'm seeing in the chat. Edge can call himself Wedge. What other letters can Edge put in front of his name? We got Ledge. We got Wedge. Are there any other ones? Dylan Hensley. We practiced chain wrestling in class today. I'm loving these updates, by the way, on his wrestling training. Hey, Fire Panda just gifted 5 channel memberships. Deputy Dog, Marquand. Look at these new members we got. Sledge. That's another one. Sledge. That's actually not too bad. But Dylan says, we practiced chain wrestling in class today. Would you believe me if I told you that it is very tiring? More than you think. Cardio is very important. No, I believe you. Look, I have sat in sometimes when, like the House of Glory school. And I've watched some of the wrestlers training other wrestlers, or Amazing Red gets in there, he's training. I was watching even when Malachi Black came into Hog once, and he got there hours before the show, and he was, training and teaching, and I just sat kind of off in the corner, and I was just observing, just watching. And you see all the little movements, and, there's no wasted movement in what he was doing. but it's exhausting, just to watch it. So if you're not used to it and you're first going through it and all the drills and everything and just the constant movement, I can absolutely believe that it's tiring. I ran the ropes when I was at the Nightmare Factory. It was a few months ago. I was in the Nightmare Factory. QT was there and Cody stopped by and I was running the ropes. I tried running the ropes. And of course, I run the ropes the first time and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So I take my arm, and my inclination is to just take my arm and put my arm over the top rope so the rope is under my armpit, which is not the way you're supposed to do it, and it hurts like a bitch. So then they explain that when you hit the ropes, you got to go into the ropes ass first into the middle rope. So put your lower body into the middle rope. I can't really explain the whole thing, but like that one little piece of advice made a huge difference. It didn't really make running the ropes any easier because, again, it's not something I'm doing on a daily basis, but like it's those things you don't think of unless you're actually being taught and you know what the fuck you're doing. So anyway, Dylan, thank you though for the update. Sean D, put Cash against the Switchblade for reasons. I see what you're saying. Dominique, hey Solomonster, first time donating. Keep up the good work, fan since 2016. Hey Dominique, thank you, man. I appreciate the $7. The Dada and Boys podcast featuring Mike D says Tony Khan just said Steamboat will challenge Starks for All Out. Did he say that? No, let me see. I gotta check this out now. Did he say that? Wow, okay. Tony Khan tweeted that on Collision this Saturday, Ricky Starks will appear live to challenge Ricky the Dragon Steamboat to a strap match this Sunday at All Out. So how do you like that? There you go. What did I say? I said it was going to be Punk and Starks in a strap match at All Out. Punk is suspended, and so now instead they're going to do the strap match with Ricky on Ricky violence here. It's going to be Ricky Steamboat and Ricky Stark, assuming they make it official and they go through with the match. That is very interesting. That would be the first singles match that Steamboat has had, I assume, since the match he had with Jericho at Backlash back in 2009. Has he had a singles match since then? I know he had a tag match that he did with FTR on an independent show, I think in November, I believe it was. But a singles match against Ricky Steamboat. How old is Steamboat at this point? He had that aneurysm many years ago. I mean, that's unexpected. I was not expecting that. So it sounds to me like, they're just substituting Ricky Steamboat for CM Punk. What it sounds like to me. He's 70. Is he 70? I thought he was still in his 60s. Holy shit. 70-year-old Ricky Steamboat? You know what? Let's wait and see what happens on Saturday, because that also sounds to me like it could just be an angle to set up the surprise return of CM Punk on Collision. If his suspension is over by the weekend, and the investigation is complete, it could be that they're teasing Ricky Steamboat in the strap match, but then they're in Chicago on Saturday. Punk makes a surprise appearance, gets the big pop because people aren't expecting him, and we get Punk and Ricky in a strap match after all. So, yeah, that could be. I'm thinking that may be what happens here. I can't imagine Ricky in a singles match. I would be very surprised by that. But we'll see. Bobbert Reviews, thank you for the 40. That was an hour ago. Thank you. Hey, Retro KOH just gifted 5 membership. Look at that. He's giving Fire Panda a run for her money here. Hey, Retro, thank you. Timothy Tillis with a couple of super chats. No longer a Punk fan. He continues to makes worse than do business. I think that means make things worse. And he says, Solomonster against Punk, book it, Tony. No, I don't want that. I mean, he was, I know he's undefeated in the UFC. I don't want to do that. Evangelist. Honestly, I would have just had Brandon Cutler beat Punk for the Real World Championship and shit can Punk. This doofus is a bigger headache than 90s HBK. Well, I don't think that Punk would be laying down for Brandon Cutler. And honestly, I don't blame him. I'm with Punk on that. I wouldn't lay down for Brandon Cutler either, and I'm not even a wrestler. Fire Panda, I guess, took that as a challenge and just gifted another 5 memberships, outdoing Retro KOH now by 5. Fire Panda said challenge accepted. Hey, ABK, man, again, he's on his way out. ABK, you're the man. I love you, brother. Thank you for all the support. It means the world to me, so have yourself a good night. Thank you, man. Thunder Force. Well, let's do Retro first. Retro KOH, I've been a big fan of his since 2006. And I am at the point where I never want to see him in wrestling again. He is toxic. Thunder Force 2000. I am a CM Punk fan, but I am now starting to feel surprised that his marriage has lasted as long as it has with his attitude. All right, well, let's not get personal now. Let's not, you know, the way he gets so easily upset by all of these comments that are made about him by these people behind the scenes, you would think they were saying something personal about his wife or his dog or something. I mean, these are not even comments that are about his family or anything like that are setting him off in this way. It's not normal. It's just not normal behavior. Oz and Glorious, regarding Tony Khan and Punk's relationship, makes me think of McMahon and his love for Shawn Michaels. What Michaels was able to get away with. Am I way off? No, you're not off at all. I think there's a lot of similarities there. Sean D, laughing at the fact that Tony Khan's daddy knew this would happen, maybe not this specifically, and that's why he gave him the money to start this company, right? What do you mean, the Punk situation? Like all the bullshit going on? I'm not sure what you mean. That he knew this would happen. That's why he gave him the money to start this company. Actually, the story there is he wasn't a wrestling fan and actually did not support Tony Khan starting his own wrestling company. But the comment he made to him is, well, when I die, you're going to get this money anyway, so you may as well blow it now while I'm alive. And he says now his father has done a 180. His father is a huge AEW fan and loves what he's done with the company. So there you go. Omando says, great analysis. I would say, like him or dislike him, Vince was able, especially in later years, to command the respect of his wrestlers. Yeah, again, it's not like WWE hasn't had its share of drama every now and then, or a backstage fight or scuffle. Shit is going to happen. Tempers are going to flare. But I cannot imagine in today's day and age, I'm not talking 30 years ago when Shawn Michaels and the Clique were doing their thing. I'm saying since the company got big and went public and became this billion-dollar corporate, juggernaut, I cannot imagine a situation like this being allowed to fester in the way that it has in AEW. I just can't picture it. It would not happen. Oz and Glorious, time to send in Carlos Ramirez to deal with the other CM Thorn in Solomonster's side. Well, Carlos will be taking care of Charles Mason and Hog very soon. You just wait and see. James Cooper, I'm a Punk mark, but he's turning into the Antonio Brown of pro wrestling. Sad to watch. Can't support the man as he is today. It just gets tiresome after a while, but Tony Khan needs to get control. Powerblind with the $10 super chat. I hate how every time AEW does something dope and hits a milestone, we get a solid card. All we ever talk about for days afterwards is Punk's BS. And I say this as a Punk fan. Perry is still mid, though. Yukio Rules with the $50 super chat. Normally I send the Brie mode one, but I had to make it higher for all the hard work you do. Thanks for everything. Well, thank you, Yukio. It's been a very busy week. And we have a stream Friday. We have a stream Saturday night with Payback. We have a podcast on Sunday. We have a pay-per-view on Sunday night. We have Raw Monday night. So we're gonna be doing it all over again. So I hope you'll join me for that too. Retro KOH, I don't know how the locker room doesn't fear Tony Khan. I would be afraid. He always looks like he busted out of rehab and hit another line. Oh man. El Prez Cat. Wish social media was this big in November of 1997. Yeah, that would have been very interesting. Oh my god, can you imagine me streaming back then? Can you imagine me streaming back then after the Montreal Screwjob happened that night, going live on YouTube and everybody doesn't know what's happening, and then we're getting reports about a fight backstage and Vince McMahon getting punched out? Are you fucking kidding me? I'd have 5,000 people on this stream. I'd be doing $4,000 in super chats. I'd be here until 6 o'clock in the morning. It would be nuts. Oh my god. That would be insane. I could retire off that one stream. I wouldn't have to work again for the rest of my life. ABK, who I think has ducked out for the night, but he said going to skip AEW All Out, overwhelming pay-per-view. I think he means underwhelming. But giving you Solo because you are the best. And again, if he watches this later on, ABK, thank you again. I can't thank you enough. The Man 0001. There's also a pack hive-minded mentality against CM Punk. I hope Punk goes back to the WWE, gets that retirement run and that Hall of Fame induction. I think he'll be in the Hall of Fame one day. I think that's a given. Boots with the $100 super chat. How long do Cole and MJF hold on to the Ring of Honor tag team titles? They don't even go there. They don't go there, I know. That's why I think they may lose them at All Out. I don't see them holding those titles for very long. It depends on who wins this Battle Royal. You know, maybe they add more teams. Maybe they add the Kingdom. I look at who's in the Battle Royal. I don't see any real good contenders to take the titles off of them. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to give it to the Hardys? I mean, you could. Fans would probably take it as a feel-good moment, but they're not going to have them for very long. ABK says, Boots and ABK, best tag team. You know, you guys are like the mega powers. Only with a little less racism. Pillow v. Pillow with the $2 super chat. Did you watch Your Honor Season 2? I did, and I enjoyed it. I don't think there's going to be a Season 3, but I'm kind of hoping maybe there is. For those who don't know, Your Honor is a Showtime show with Bryan Cranston in the lead. He's a judge in New Orleans, and his son gets into a bit of trouble, and he tries to get his son out of trouble, and unfortunately, his son gets in an auto accident, and the kid that he kills is the son of a reputed mobster. That's the premise of the show. But Bryan Cranston is awesome. I watch almost anything he's in, although I've never seen Malcolm in the Middle. But he's great. So yeah, if you're looking for a new show to watch, definitely check out Your Honor. Base Beer is God of Seduction. Wow, Wednesdays are usually slow. You deserve it. Wednesdays are weird because there can be Wednesdays where it is very slow, but then every now and then there'll be a Wednesday where it's just like just a groundswell of support out of nowhere. Raw has been slow. And I have a theory about that. I think that on a lot of weeks, people are they're so bored that they fall asleep before Raw is over. It's so long. So when I go live, they're not in the chat. They're not, where are you guys? They're probably sleeping. Probably dozed off. That's my theory about Mondays. Power Blind, Solo should take all this cash and start his own promotion. If you want to piss all of your money down the drain, start your own wrestling promotion. You may as well just burn it. You may as well set a nice big bonfire with a pile of cash. I can think of worse ways to waste my money. Or better ways, I should say. The Yatagaratsu. I want to ask Bischoff on 83 Weeks if he would suspend Hogan over a backstage incident just to count how many goalposts he moves. It wouldn't matter what answer he gives you anyway. I wouldn't believe him. He'd say whatever he wants. The Winston Slip. Best house show match that you saw live. Ooh. Best house show match I saw live? You know what? It might be the very first one that I saw. The very first main event at the very first show I ever went to live. Which was the day after Christmas, 1987, Madison Square Garden. Macho Man Randy Savage challenging the Honky Tonk Man for the Intercontinental title in the main event with the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, suspended above the ring in a shark cage. I believe Peggy Sue was there as well. That's when Sherry Martel was playing Peggy Sue. She was at ringside. That's a classic one. I think I might go with that one. Dennis. Is it Beagle or Beagle? I want to say Beagle, but it could be Beagle. Do you see Jordan Oliver going to AEW or WWE? If he goes to either one, I have no inside knowledge. Although, again, we've had him in House of Glory. I think AEW. I would see AEW probably. God of Seduction. Why is this stream so lit tonight? Whoop that trick. Whoop that trick. You know, I had so many people the other night tell me it's from a movie. I knew it was from a movie. I just didn't know what the name of the movie was, but it's become adopted by Memphis fans. So now it's like a Grizzlies thing. Solomonster has the secret to eternal youth. Do I? Because there are some days where I feel like an old man. But that's very nice of you to say that. Naughty Delicious says, DEA, Damon Edge Adams is all elite. Edge's new name. No, I kind of like Sledge. Kind of like that one. 187 Trap or Die with the $9.99. I just think Punk is a guy who's willing to confront people when they speak about him while the others aren't. Wrong or right, he does it to their face and they don't know how to handle it. Well, it's one thing to confront people who you think have wronged you. But A, there is a time and a place to do that. B, in the role that he is in, he's got to be the bigger man. I mean, again, it's one thing if somebody said something so awful, that he killed the puppy, or, again, said something about his family, or really accused him of something, wrestling-wise that was like so egregious, or just flat out insulted him on social media or on some public platform and called him a horrible name or something. Like, that's not what we're seeing here. Like, these comments are so petty and so stupid that, but he makes such a big deal about them at the worst possible time in the worst possible situations that just reflect so badly on this company. And I don't know if he doesn't realize the damage that he does to this company's reputation, or he just doesn't give a shit and he's that selfish. I don't know. I don't know what it is. That's the issue. The issue is not that, he's willing to stand up for himself. It's that, the way in which he does it is just embarrassing. It's just all wrong. And it doesn't really benefit AEW when he does that. That's the issue. James Cooper, if you could swap any two there it is again. If you could swap any two wrestlers between WWE and AEW, who would it be? I would put AJ Styles in AEW and Wardlow in WWE. I would put... That's an interesting one. I'm trying to think from WWE. Who I would move over. Well, I think from AEW, I mean, Wardlow is a good one, but Wardlow's stock has just fallen so much. I mean, it's such a shame what happened to him. But I think as far as AEW goes, I would have liked to have seen Omega go work with some guys like Rollins and AJ over there, like in a WrestleMania match, or Roman and Sheamus and Gunther, Omega and Gunther. So I think I probably would go with Omega. I think there's some big matches that we could have gotten from him in WWE. As far as the other way around, I don't know. I mean, AJ and AEW would have a whole bunch of people to work with, and he's just not doing anything in WWE. He's doing nothing. Like, nothing right now. So I might agree with you on AJ just because he's not even being used. It would be one thing if he was in WWE actually doing stuff, but they're not even doing anything with him. So maybe AJ and Kenny. Yeah, maybe I would swap them. Zach says CM Punk is the GOAT. Well, there you go. Dr. Bropio with the $3. Says AEW was about to finish first and then got bombarded by a bunch of blue shells at the finish line. Mario Kart reference. Peak irony at its best. Oh, the blue shells. You know what? I hate the squid. When you get squidded and you can't see.
Look at Richie Rich
You
over
can't
here
what?
dropping all this money on me. Hey,
Wait, what?
I just want you to know.
Oh, he's still
I think
here.
You rock. I don't
Oh my
mean The
God.
Rock,
Holy
A-Rock.
shit. I
You
thought he
rock.
was gone.
And I just wanted you to know that.
Oh my God. He did a run-in on the stream. Look at this guy. Like a true wrestler. He made everybody think that he was leaving. And then out of nowhere, they hit his theme music. And fucking ABK did another run-in here back on the stream and dropped another $100 super chat. It's like the glass shattering and Austin comes down to the ring and hits Rock in the head with a steel chair. That's what ABK just pulled on us here on this stream. Holy shit. Wow. Wow. Ugh. That's the run-in of the century right there. Yeah, you got Jim Ross on the call. By God, it's ABK. They're hanging from the rafters. Everyone is going bananas, as Gorilla Monsoon would say. He cashed in his money in the bank. He literally cashed in his money in the bank. And I am forever grateful for it. Hey, ABK, man. Thank you for the cash in. It was like a money in the bank cash in. That's really what it was. Base Beerus says Wedge E. Love the scissor belts. Very interactive. I'm telling you, if they make those scissor belts, they will sell a fuck ton of those belts. I'm not saying you would see one over my shoulder here on these streams. I wouldn't go that far, but... See, we don't even need Damian Priest to cash in on Sunday here. We had ABK cash in his money in the bank. But see, what are we going to do then on Saturday at Payback? He's already cashed in his money in the bank. We got... Oh, there's the Down Goes Disco. Down goes... That's the day that disco died, as they say. Let's see. We got Dr. Bropio. Again, thank you for that one. Yeah, like I said, I hate the squid in Mario. Sorry, shit. I already got the Punk fans angry with me. Now I'm gonna get all the Mario fans if I don't pronounce it right. Super Mario. There you go. ABK says, first time I watched a WWE house show in 2011 in Qatar. It is Qatar, right? I want to make absolutely sure, because I always... Is it Qatar? Is it Qatar? I pronounce it as Qatar, but I want to make sure I'm saying it the right way here. He was 14. 14 years old. It was the best show. Says, bye, guys. Good night, guys. Should we believe him this time? Should we take his word for it this time? Is he really gone this time? Is he going to come up from under the ring like the Undertaker did in that cage match with Brett and Diesel? Base Beer says, that's gotta be A.B. Kane. Very well played. Very well played. I like that. It's gotta be A.B. Kane. It's Qatar. It's Qatar. Oh, is it Qatar? Is it Qatar? Okay, so I guess that is Qatar. Okay, Qatar. Thank you. There we go. And I've been saying it wrong. 187 Trap or Die with the $9.99. I agree with you, but until someone is willing to stand up to him, the BS all continues. Whether that is physically, verbally, or firing him. By the way, big fan from Queens. Thank you, Trap or Die. What part of Queens? Should come out to a House of Glory show. We got them in Jamaica, Queens almost every month. Got one coming up on September 15th. And the Dada and Boys podcast does Bray headline next year's Hall of Fame. You know, I got an email about that earlier. He would have been a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame regardless of what happened to him. I think he goes in next year or 2025 because next year they're in Philadelphia, and I don't know this, but if they were to do an extreme-themed Hall of Fame, then I could see them holding off until 2025. But I think Bray goes in the next 2 years for sure. And Retro KOH just dropped $4. The squid is not nearly as bad as the lightning. If you know the course or go into the water, the squid doesn't bother you too much. You know what I hate? I hate Rainbow Road. I always fall off Rainbow Road. Fuck Rainbow Road. Well, I do love me some Mario Kart. Retro, thank you. Whew! Where did that come from? Mr. Dynamite says it's 1:07 a.m. It's 1:07 a.m. here too. We're in the same time zone, I think. Luis is coming in with a $10 super chat. Luis, Belmont show walkthrough says CM Punk should be fired. Gavin Newsom should be the general manager of AEW Collision. Oh my God. Always with the California reference. Always with the California. Well, at least I know who Gavin Newsom is. Usually he's naming people that I don't know. At least I know who that is. You're going to name Gavin Newsom the general manager over me? I'm an actual commissioner. Luis, thank you. And 27 at 27. What if Warner Brothers Discovery says they need to keep Punk? What then? Well, then Tony Khan has a decision that he has to make. And I don't envy the position that he is in. Which is the other thing. All this puts Tony Khan, all this stuff puts him in a very difficult position. I'm not saying these are easy decisions for him to make. It's easy for me or other people to go on YouTube and sit here and say that I would do this, I would do that. There are other factors at play here. I get that. I get that it's not such an easy snap your fingers kind of decision here. If I were him, though, I would articulate to them all the reasons why he has to go. And hope that they respect him enough and respect his decision and his insight enough to say, well, if you're coming to us and telling us this, it must be bad, so you do what you have to do. But that's a decision that he has to make. He has to decide what is in the best interest of his company. Nobody said these were going to be easy decisions when you are the boss. He's finding that out. But I think I covered all of the incoming super chats, I believe. So, wow. Was not expecting that on a Wednesday, but boy, that is very cool because this is the final live stream of the month. I said I wanted to go out on a high note. So you guys made that possible. Well, the goal tonight was 400 likes. I set a very modest goal. Boy, if I would have known that this was going to be the case, I would have set the goal. I would have made it at least 500. We're almost at 700. We're at 690. Can we get to 700 likes? We only need 10 more. But let's go ahead and be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen,
oh, look who it is,
now
everybody.
time to be the booker.
It's Phil. He looks like he's ready to fight someone. He wants to fight. So let's be the booker and see. Maybe we'll land on CM Punk tonight. Wouldn't that be funny? He wants to fight so badly. Maybe we'll book CM Punk. I don't know. It's all random. I have no idea what it's going to land on. Hey, Uncle Saudi, or Dr. Bropey. I thought Uncle Saudi was an actual person there for a second. Dr. Bropio says, you got to deal with Charles Mason and Hogg. I don't know why Tony Khan can't do the same with his roster. We begin with Jim Cornette. It looks like he just sat through a marathon of Attitude Era Raw episodes, nonstop, on a loop. Look at this guy. Jim Cornette. It's going to be Jim Cornette one-on-one with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I think that would have been a struggle even for the Dragon. Although kind of funny, we were just talking about Ricky the Dragon, and look who popped up and be the booker. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I'm telling you, there's some kind of like internal microphone here. Like it hears me. I think it hears me. Some kind of AI going on here. And then it lands on the person that I was talking about. Yeah, Steamboat would have to carry that one, but that's a bit of a stretch. So now we go to the women's side. We begin with Carmella, former WWE Women's Champion, right? SmackDown Women's Champion. Was she a Raw Women's Champion? I think she was only a SmackDown Women's Champion. Money in the Bank winner. Carmella is going to go one-on-one with Allison Kay. I can dig that. I don't know what kind of match they would have, but I think Allison Kay and Carmella, kind of a unique match. I'll give that the bell. See, that's different. We've been landing on like Tammy Sitch and Moolah and all the same, a lot of the same people who are not very good. So it's nice to have a couple of different people here for a change. Rampage main event, says BlissFan. BlissFan, I think you are correct. That would be a Rampage main event. All right, here we go. Look at this. Tag team, be the booker. Matt and Nick, the Young Bucks. Or Generation Me. Or whatever nickname you have for them. The Young Bucks. Kicking off Be the Booker. Off to a good start. Young Bucks, instant buzz, says Power Spine Games. Young Bucks are going to take on Chronic. I just don't think that would be a very good match. I don't know, just a mismatch. Just a mismatch. I don't think that Chronic would sell for the Young Bucks the way they're used to teams selling for them. And I just think it would end up being a disaster. Maybe an entertaining, like a train wreck kind of disaster, but I don't think that's a good combination. And we were on a roll, man. We could have gone 3 for 3. We were doing so well the last 2 streams. Now we went 1 for 3 tonight after such a great stream. Drew McIncock says hi. So everybody say hello to Drew. 187, Trap or Die, $9.99. Also, an idea for Punk against MJF is Adam Cole screws MJF, leading to MJF resigning. Oh, resigning. Man, you got to put the hyphen in there. You got to put the hyphen in there. That's a totally different meaning now. Re-signing with AEW for revenge on both as a true babyface. Queens Village, and I will take you up on that in October. I am sure that MJF is already signed, sealed, and delivered. Because Tony Khan would be out of his mind not to already have him signed to a new deal. Or at least an extension on his existing deal. Luis says, you should be the general manager of Dynamite and SmackDown. If Gavin Newsom is going to be the GM of Collision. Dynamite and SmackDown? Yeah, I don't think that WWE would allow that. I do like, though, that you're keeping me away from the Punk show. I appreciate that. Because I don't need that headache. I'm not as old as Punk is yet. Close, but not quite. But I'm too old for that shit. I don't need to be dealing with that. God of Seduction, I love Miz's impersonations. Miz Rock with the bald cap. Yeah, he's impersonated Rock, he's impersonated Cena, and now he's impersonated LA Knight. He even impersonated a WWE champion once upon a time. And a WrestleMania main eventer. And Near dropping in with a super chat. You should use Be the Booker for House of Glory. Just randomly book the matches. Just push a button and say, okay, this is what the show is going to be. Maybe. Uffman with the 5 says, 30 years ago, the Lex Express made its final stop at SummerSlam and Lex beat Yoko via countout. Poor Lex. Yeah, Lex Luger's WWE career died that night. He says the same thing. He's joked about it on Twitter. He has a good sense of humor about it. His career in WWE died that night. It actually gets dumber each time I go back and watch it. Like, I get that much more dumbfounded that he actually thought, you know what, we're going to wait until WrestleMania. We're going to do it at WrestleMania. I get even more and more confused when I watch it back. I can't, because Vince, you say a lot of things about Vince McMahon, and as he got older creatively and everything, he's not a dumb person. And I just, for the life of me, I just can't understand why he would have thought that was a good idea. Unless in his mind, he kind of already gave up on Lex. And I don't think he did, which is why it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Anyway, we got, okay, no, I covered them all. I thought I missed one. This has been an incredible stream, and I cannot thank you guys enough for all the support. Again, I went longer on the Punk stuff. I saved the Punk stuff for the end because I wanted to make sure I got the review done, because that's why people tuned in for the review. But, you know, look, I said what I said. I hope it made sense to you. It makes sense to me. Those are my honest thoughts and feelings on the situation. We'll see if this situation turns out a different way, and we come to find out that it went down differently than what's been reported, which is always possible. But the same thing holds true, though. It's a headache that Tony Khan doesn't need. And the time for warnings and suspensions only, that's come and gone. Now it's time to take action. And he has to make a decision about what's important. What's most important to him? Is it more important to have Punk in his camp? Or is it more important for him to kind of move beyond that and really try to start getting his house in order and putting his foot down and letting people know that this sort of thing will not be tolerated anymore? And if I have to make an example out of people, it doesn't matter whether you're the biggest star in the company or you're the lowest man on the totem pole. Whether you're a male or a female, women's division, men's division, Ring of Honor, it doesn't matter. This stuff will no longer be tolerated. He has to make an example. It's as simple as that. God of Seduction, thank you very much for the $15 super chat. Looks like you're going to have the final say. He says, I cannot accept Orange Cassidy kicking out of 2 fear factors. One on the apron, trading destroyers. Punk's story is he turns heel and that he clings to the belt despite 4 to 5 suspensions and title matches over the course of a year. How many suspensions can one person... He's going to start racking up suspensions like parking tickets. All right, here's the schedule. Barring breaking news tomorrow, I'm live again Friday night for SmackDown. I'm live on Saturday night for Payback. So somebody asked me before, am I reviewing Collision? Not live. If anything happens on Collision that's important, which it sounds like there will, because it'll be tied into All Out, I will talk about it on Sunday. So Payback Saturday night, episode 824 on Sunday, probably mid-afternoon it'll drop. I try to get them out a little bit earlier when there's a pay-per-view, but sometimes there's so much news going on, it gets out later in the day. Sunday night is All Out. That's going to be a late night, because unfortunately, unlike All In, it's not starting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm sure that'll be a very eventful night, one way or the other. And then right into Raw. Labor Day. Labor Day, everyone's going to be taking a day off. Everyone's going to be working, or not working, I should say. I'll be working. I'll be live on YouTube talking about Gunther and Chad Gable for the Intercontinental title. Will he or won't he break the record next week? We'll find out. So anyway, I hope you guys will hang with me. Naughty Delicious says Mortal Kombat 1 is coming. It's kind of weird. They're calling it Mortal Kombat 1. We had Mortal Kombat 1. It came out when I was a kid. Now we're getting Mortal Kombat 1 again. I hope that doesn't mean there's going to be a Mortal Kombat 2, because there's only one Mortal Kombat 2. I got the arcade downstairs, actually. Be well, stay safe. Whatever you do, don't piss off CM Punk. I hear he doesn't like that. I'll see you guys on Friday night. Thanks for the love.